Chapter 652. You're the former principal of Yincheng University. There shouldn't be anyone who doesn't know you. Song Yao was a little reserved. This was a big shot in the scientific research field. He was someone who truly stood at the peak of the academic field. At the same time, the rest of the people also froze and reacted sluggishly. Bai Mingzhang? It was Bai Mingzhang. Mr. Bai. Leia's expression changed, turning red and pale. She did not expect this jar of pickled vegetables to be given by Bai Mingzhang. Her mind was in a mess. How was this possible? How was this possible? Bai Yunj had not stayed at Yun University for long, and it was her first time seeing Mr. Bai. Where did Bai Yunj get the ability to be so close to Mr. Bai? Are these your friends? Bai Mingzhang glanced at the others and asked. Grandpa Bai, this is my friend Song Yao. Bai Yunj's voice was still cold as she introduced Song Yao solemnly. At this moment, Qi Xinhua, who had been sucking up to Leia just now, turned pale and realized that she had stood on the wrong side. If she had spoken up for Bai Yunj just now, would Bai Yunj have introduced her as the second person? Would she have a chance to be known by a big shot like Bai Mingzhang? Your Guer's friend. Bai Mingzhang looked at Bai Yunj. Seeing that Bai Yunj was determined not to take this jar of spicy cabbage away, he took the spicy cabbage back with a smile and stuffed it into Song Yao's hands again. Come, this is Grandpa Bai's greeting gift. This is the spicy cabbage I made personally. Song Yao, who was suddenly forced to hug the spicy cabbage, said, Thank you, Grandpa Bai. You're welcome. Let Guer bring you to my house to play in the future. Is the college entrance examination coming soon? If you come, I can teach you some physics. In the future, if you want to get into Yun University, I can give you some advice. After all, I'm quite familiar with this place. Bai Mingzhang did not look as serious as he did outside. Instead, he was smiling like a kind old grandfather next door. Song Yao nodded, a little introverted. If there's a chance, I will. All right, let's exchange contact details first. The scene of Bai Mingzhang voluntarily giving out his contact information made everyone green with envy. What kind of luck did Song Yao have to be invited by Bai Mingzhang to play, and even have his contact number? Most importantly, the jar of pickled vegetables that they disliked and despised was actually made by Bai Mingzhang himself. If it was given to them, they would be happy to bring a jar of pickled vegetables and wander around. They would even worship the jar of pickled vegetables and burn incense every day. Old Tian. Is that Dean Tian Hujing from Yin City's Agricultural University? A boy suddenly had an idea and asked subconsciously. At this moment, only then did Bai Mingzhang realize that he had blurted out the matter of him stealing old Tian's vegetables. Bai Mingzhang. He was done for. His image was gone. Seeing Bai Mingzhang's silence, everyone roughly understood the origin of these two jars of pickled vegetables. They sucked in a breath of cold air. Wouldn't I be punished by the heavens if I ate these two jars of pickled vegetables? Since Elder Tian had personally planted them, this was no longer a matter of carrots and cabbages. Bai Mingzhang didn't think much of it. After all, Elder Tian liked to study crops, so he had very high standards for his diet. All along he had been eating what he grew. However, Chapter 653. In fact, of course, Tian Hujing knew that a lot of vegetables were missing every day. He just turned a blind eye and endured it. After all, they had been old friends for so many years and he was too embarrassed to expose them. But in the end, Bai Mingzhang, this old fellow, was shameless. In order to please Lin Lanjun, he had directly taken away more than half of the vegetables in his private garden. Even 4 or 5 of his newly cultivated crops had been taken away by this old fellow. Therefore, Tian Hujing could not take it anymore, and got a big black dog to look after the vegetable garden. If it wasn't for everyone's dignity, he would have wanted to erect a sign in the vegetable garden. No one with the surname Bai can enter my vegetable garden. At this moment, Bai Yunj watched as Bai Mingzhang chatted with Song Yao. Her eyebrows moved, and she tugged at Bai Mingzhang's sleeve gently. She smirked and said lazily, Tian still has a meeting. Hearing this, Bai Mingzhang regained his senses. I see. Then Tian, go to the meeting quickly. Song Yao was speechless. This form of address was really shameful. In the end, Song Yao had no choice but to carry this can of spicy cabbage and walk to the conference hall stiffly. At this moment, no one dared to talk about this can of pickled vegetables anymore. This was F*King made by Mingzhang himself. So, during the meeting, the professor kept noticing that this group of students were secretly glancing at the can of spicy cabbage Song Yao was carrying from time to time. The professor was speechless. What was wrong with this group of students now? If they liked spicy cabbage so much, why were they staring at the spicy cabbage? Searching for ebooks, after the academic conference ended, Tich, Jasmine, and the rest prepared to return to our nation. On the way, Jasmine looked like he wanted to ask but did not dare to. In the end, Tich could not help but ask for Jasmine. "Teacher, does Song Yao have someone she likes?" With that said, Jasmine's face flushed red, and the pedestrians in the airport could not help but look at this handsome foreign man. Bei Yunj narrowed her pretty eyes and her voice was a little casual. "You like Song Yao?" However, when Tich heard this, he immediately felt a chill run down his spine. "No, it's not me. It's Jasmine." Tich betrayed Jasmine without hesitation. Anyway, Jasmine was so bold that he dared to think about the woman by his teacher's side. Why would he be afraid of his teacher finding out? Bei Yunj glanced at Jasmine unhurriedly, but there was a deeper meaning in his eyes. She didn't. Jasmine immediately became agitated, and did not notice the coldness in his teacher's tone. "Really? Jasmine, you seem to have had a lot of girlfriends," Bei Yunj said unhurriedly. This made Jasmine instantly feel guilty. In Country R, he had indeed had many girlfriends, and every one of them was sexy and hot. Half of the headlines of Country R's wealthy families were about him. However, in the past 20 years, he had only had uncontrollable feelings for Song Yao. If he had known that there would be a day when he would like a girl so much, he would never have gotten a girlfriend without restraint. "Teacher, about this matter, I think." Jasmine wanted to retain his good impression of him. But the next moment, he heard his teacher's leisurely voice. "If you want to chase after me, I don't mind. But you have to know the consequences of bullying her." Hearing this, Jasmine looked up and met Bei Yunj's faint smile. His scalp turned numb inexplicably. Chapter 654. Bei Yunj did not know what Jasmine was thinking, but she had seen many people in the past who were friendly to their friends, but heartless to their girlfriends. If Jasmine was such a person and insisted on provoking Song Yao, then this would not be a simple outcome of breaking off their teacher-student relationship. "Teacher, I really like Song Yao. Don't worry, I won't do anything to let anyone down." Although Jasmine was known for being a playboy, he had always been generous to his girlfriends. Even if they broke up, none of his girlfriends said that Jasmine was bad. Bei Yunj did not speak, her eyes filled with careless thoughts. She did not know if Song Yao had walked out of Fu Yanbai's shadow. However, no matter who Song Yao liked, it was better than Fu Yanbai. Bei Yunj did not continue this topic. Instead, she suddenly remembered and asked Tich, "Where's your father? Didn't he go back with you?" "My father. He took a private plane back," Tich said carelessly. Originally, Tich wanted to go back with Delaney, but Delaney refused to agree. Especially after he found out that Bei Yunj had agreed to send Tich to the airport. Delaney had kicked Tich out early in the morning. He refused to let Tich take his private plane at all. What a joke. He had personally sent Tich to the airport, but Tich still foolishly wanted to take a helicopter with him? How did he give birth to such an idiot? Just like that, she was lucky enough to become his student. At this thought, Delaney had no choice but to believe in Country A's traditional culture. The ancestors had blessed him. It was really the ancestors who had blessed him. Otherwise, how could this idiot cozy up to him? Tich had no idea that in his father's heart, he was just a tool to please his teacher. Bei Yunj did not have the time to think about why Delaney did not take her son with him. She only glanced at her watch and thought about returning to the computing institute later. "Teacher, we'll go back first. You must come to Country R when you have time." Fo Tich held himself back and said emotionally, "We'll miss you." Hearing this, Bei Yunj nodded. Her lazy voice sounded very perfunctory. Okay. I'll miss you too. Remember to speed up the progress of the project. Don't waste time." Tich and Jasmine. As expected, This emotional atmosphere did not last for more than 3 seconds. Hurry up and board the plane. After Bae Yunj finished speaking, he left with one hand in his pocket. It made Tich and Jasmine feel as if they had been abandoned by a scumbag. Wasn't this a little too perfunctory? However, just as Bae Yunj bought a cup of Odin from a convenience store in the airport, Bae Yunj looked up and saw a middle-aged man in a suit standing in front of her. It was Father Chin. Bae Yunj's hand paused imperceptibly. Then she took another bite of the meatball, held the Odin and walked out. Who are those two men? Father Chin immediately asked. He could tell that the two foreign men did not seem to be ordinary people. Bae Yunj was stopped and had no choice but to stop in her tracks. She slowly took a bite of the meatball. After she finished eating, she licked her lips. There was a faint smile and impatience in her eyes. But suddenly, a sharp voice sounded not far away. Chapter 655. Of course, Mrs. Chin recognized Bae Yunj from afar. There were all kinds of complicated emotions in her heart, but more than that, there was a sense of annoyance. This was someone she never wanted to meet in her life. She could even meet her at the airport. Mrs. Chin held Mr. Chin's hand and said with a smile, "Jiao Jiao is still waiting for us over there. In order to participate in the International Musicians Association's performance this time, she has to train for 3 months. You won't be able to see her even if you want to." These words sounded like a happy family of 3. However, at this moment, Mr. Chin's heart ached when he saw Bae Yunj's indifferent gaze. He was unmoved by Mrs. Chin's words. He softened his voice. Give me some time. Let's have a good chat, okay? Perhaps even the Chin family could not afford to provoke those two men just now. How could Bae Yunj have anything to do with such people? Mr. Chin, can you stop your overflowing fatherly love? You have 3 sons and a daughter. Isn't there a place for you to show your fatherly love? Bae Yunj said with a smirk. In the next moment, Mrs. Chin immediately pulled Mr. Chin and said, "Chin Ting, did you see it clearly? No one treats you as their biological father. Listen, if it was Jiao Jiao, would she be able to say this?" At the mention of Chin Yo Jiao, Mrs. Chin's eyes were filled with pride. Now that Jiao Jiao has become an official member of the International Musicians Association, it's completely our Chin family's honor. Do you think that others can fight for all of this for you? With that said, Mrs. Chin glanced at Bae Yunj meaningfully. It was obvious that this others was none other than Bae Yunj. In Mrs. Chin's heart, the daughter she had raised was naturally 1,000 times better than this gloomy and evil Bae Yunj. If it wasn't for this blood relationship, she would have made Bae Yunj disappear from Yinqing even if Bae Yunj had pushed Chin Yojiao down the stairs. But why was Bae Yunj her daughter? Mrs. Chin hid the frustration and unwillingness in her eyes. She did not want such an embarrassing girl to have anything to do with her. It doesn't matter how the child is. Mr. Chin was also afraid that Bae Yunj would be angry if she heard what he said. Mother Chin, on the other hand, found it ironic. Anything is fine? She was sent to a mental hospital because she pushed Jiao Jiao. Is that a good thing? Enough. It's all a misunderstanding. Ayen said it before. After Mr. Chin finished speaking, he immediately turned to Bae Yunj and said, I believe you. You didn't push. Bae Yunj could not help but snort as she watched the couple cook cold rice non-stop. She smirked nonchalantly, her eyes filled with impudence and laziness. Is it important whether I pushed him or not? If Mr. and Mrs. Chin are really conflicted about this, why don't you let Chin Yojiao come over now? Bae Yunj looked up, and a cold light flashed in the depths of her eyes. She licked her moist red lips, and her smile was arrogant and unruly. Do you want me to give you some evidence? Immediately, Mother Chin's expression changed. It was so dark that ink could drip from it. Bae Yunj. In the past, when Bae Yunj had just returned, she was only gloomy and full of thoughts. But now this Bae Yunj was completely lawless. Did she really think that she could become a member of the Hua family, just because she moved into the Hua family? Mrs. Chin gritted her teeth, her eyes cold. Do you think I can't deal with you just because you have the support of the Hua family? Suddenly, the man's low and light voice sounded not too far away. It was magnetic and pleasant to the ears. Why? Who does Mrs. Chin want to deal with now? Chapter 656. Bei Yunj was stunned when she heard this. In the blink of an eye, she saw the man in a black suit. He had elegant eyebrows and was handsome and refined. His pale-colored eyes were abstinent, and his posture was lazy and carefree. Huashidu naturally picked up the bamboo skewer in Bei Yunj's hand and made a skewer of tofu. He bent down and took a bite. The man ate elegantly, and his appearance was so good-looking that Bei Yunj's eyes inexplicably drifted away when she saw the man licking his thin lips. However, not long after, Bei Yunj regained her senses. This man had just eaten her oden. Bei Yunj's expression instantly changed. "Brother, it's sold over there." Seeing that the little girl was starting to get unhappy, the man's thin red lips curled up, and he said in a very insincere and lazy tone, "I see. Bei Yunj. Then go and buy some for brother?" After speaking, Huashidu really took out 2 red notes from his black man's wallet and stuffed them into Bei Yunj's hand. The expression on Bei Yunj's bright and beautiful face became even more subtle. How could this D***MN man be so self-righteous? "I won't." Bei Yunj smiled slightly, and even put the 2 red notes into her pocket with a smile. At this moment, when Mr. and Mrs. Qin saw the interaction between Bei Yunj and the man, it was not difficult for them to tell that the man was deliberately teasing Bei Yunj. However, his eyes did not hide his indulgence and indulgence. Huashidu's upturned eyes were charming, and his posture was frivolous. He casually flicked Bei Yunj with his index finger and laughed softly. He was lazy and irredeemably sexy. Where did this little bandit come from? "Mr. Hua." At this moment, Mr. Qin could not help but speak up. 29 Gigi, especially when he saw that Bei Yunj's relationship with outsiders was better than her relationship with him, her biological father, he felt even more upset. "I almost forgot that President Qin is here too." Huashidu turned his head. The smile in his eyes had completely disappeared, and his tone was indifferent. "If I didn't hear wrongly, your words just now were directed at my young lady?" When Mrs. Qin heard this, she wanted to continue mocking Bei Yunj, but when she looked up and met the man's cold and emotionless eyes, she instantly felt a chill down her spine. This person from the Hua family was indeed not to be trifled with. "Mr. Hua, after all, Gur is our daughter." The mother and daughter only had a conflict. "They didn't mean it that way," Mr. Qin immediately said. When Bei Yunj heard this, her eyes gradually filled with mockery and amusement. However, with Huashidu around, she did not want to say anything to Mr. Qin. Subsequently, just as Bei Yunj was about to pull Huashidu away, the man naturally allowed Bei Yunj to hold his hand. However, he stood rooted to the ground and did not move at all. His dignified eyes were indifferent as he curled his thin lips indifferently. "Is that so? But my daughter's surname is not Qin." As soon as he finished speaking, Father Qin's expression changed. Indeed, back then, because of Mrs. Qin's obstruction, they did not transfer Bei Yunj's household registration to their name. And because Bei Yunj was unwilling, they did not ask Bei Yunj to change her surname. Therefore, in a sense, they were outsiders. "President Qin, take care of your wife. Since Madame Gui knows that the Hua family is supporting Union, then it's best for her to know her place." The man chuckled carelessly. His slender and well-defined fingers gently held the young lady's hand. "My young lady can't suffer any grievances." In an instant. Chapter 657. She never thought that she would actually find a backer for Bei Yunj. "Mr. Hua, with your status, you can have any woman you want." "You," Mrs. Qin instinctively said unwillingly, but when she saw the coldness in Huashidu's eyes, her body froze. Soon, she heard the man say slowly, "Mrs. Qin, you have to know that I don't mind doing anything for Union." The meaning of these words was obvious. It was not convenient for Bei Yunj to do anything to them, but he could. It was obvious that he was blatantly protecting Bei Yunj. In the next second, Mr. Qin immediately pulled Mrs. Qin back, his expression dark as he said to her, "Don't talk nonsense." Hearing this, Mr. and Mrs. Qin turned around and saw Qin Youjiao, who was dressed beautifully and wearing a black mask. When Qin Youjiao saw Bei Yunj, her gaze changed and she smiled naturally as she held Mr. and Mrs. Qin's hands. However, just as Mr. Qin was about to apologize to Huashidu, Qin Yojiao's voice sounded not far away. Dad, Mom, who are you talking to? Pride appeared in Qin Yojiao's eyes as she glanced at Bei Yunj. She took off her mask and smiled. If there's a chance, I can bring Yunj to meet my teacher. Maybe Teacher Arn will teach Yunj too. Sarcasm appeared in Mrs. Qin's eyes, but because Huashidu was around, she did not say anything. Teacher Arn has officially accepted me as a student. I'm also qualified to participate in the concert early next year. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin was overjoyed. Really? Arn? Isn't that the interviewer from before? He should be very good. Teacher Arn is a very good musician in our nation. Qin Yojiao looked at Huashidu with a slightly infatuated gaze. It was obvious that her goal was not only to let Bei Yunj see the difference between them, it was also to get Huashidu's favor. Seeing this, Bei Yunj looked at Qin Yojiao with a faint smile. Bei Yunj? Where did she get the ability to gain the favor of a teacher from the International Musicians Association? I believe that Mr. Hua also hopes that Yunj can become a better person. She deliberately did not let Huashidu listen. Huashidu's eyelids moved, and he lowered his eyes to look at the flamboyant and bright girl in front of him who had raised her eyebrows. The man's sexy Adam's apple rolled, and a low hoarse laugh overflowed. The teasing lazy voice just happened to ring in her ear. As expected. In the next second, he saw Qin Yojiao's nervous and embarrassed expression as she bit her lip. Mr. Hua, actually I. Before Qin Yojiao could finish speaking, Bei Yunj's lips suddenly curled up and she leaned in front of the man. She suddenly stood on tiptoes and covered his ears with both hands. Qin Yojiao watched as Bei Yunj covered the man's ears directly, not letting him hear her speak. Instantly, her heart burned with jealousy. What right did Bei Yunj have to prevent Huashidu from getting close to her? Qin Yojiao suppressed her anger and said with a fake smile. Grr, aren't you being too petty by doing this? I just wanted to say something to Mr. Hua. Don't you know that you are very attractive? She even smiled so brightly. On the other side, Bei Yunj deliberately did not look at the man's staring eyes, but her heart was fluttering. She did not hear what Qin Yojiao said at all. Bei Yunj glanced at them. Are you all right? If there's nothing else, I'll get going first. Chapter 658. Inexplicably. In front of this man, Bei Yunj did not want to be entangled with this couple from the Qin family. At this moment, seeing this, Qin Yojiao felt that Bei Yunj was being arrogant and domineering. No man would like such an arrogant and domineering woman. Besides, it was a man like Huashidu. Bei Yunj, have you ever cared about Mr. Hua's feelings when you do this? Qin Yojiao pursed her lips. You can't possibly restrict Mr. Hua's personal freedom, right? Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow. Even her beautiful and lazy eyes looked charming. Personal freedom? After Bei Yunj asked, she looked at Huashidu. She wanted to know what this meant. However, the man who had not spoken much, suddenly smirked and glanced at the decorative ribbon tied to Bei Yunj's sweater carelessly. A playful look appeared in his eyes, and he tugged at the bow on the little girl's sleeve lazily. His posture was lazy and frivolous. Let's go, little girl. However, when Qin Yojiao saw that Huashidu was ignoring her, her face turned red and green. This man was already using his actions to tell her that she was being a busybody. Hua. Qin Yojiao was unwilling to accept this. She wanted to say something but was suddenly interrupted by Mr. Qin. Jiao, do you think that if that man is unwilling, who can stop him? Mr. Qin was the most clear-headed one. A person like Huashidu had always been the most unfathomable existence in the business world. And usually such people would never be restrained by anyone. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao froze. She did not expect Mr. Qin to know what she was thinking. Biting her lip, she stared at the man's dignified and composed back view. A trace of unwillingness flashed past her eyes before she turned to look at Mr. Qin. Qin Yojiao bit her lip. Dad, if Yunj offends Mr. Hua in the future, I'm afraid the Qin family will be implicated. These words sounded nice. If it was in the past, Mr. Qin might have believed it quickly. However, at this moment, Mr. Qin's eyes darkened. He glanced at his pampered but obedient daughter, in front of him, and could not help but look at the girl who would not even greet him when she left. He had a feeling that he was losing something and he was afraid and depressed. Brother, why are you here? Bei Yunj walked beside Hwashidu and pressed down on the brim of her hat as she asked unhurriedly. Something cropped up all of a sudden, so I need to return to country R. Bei Yunj glanced at the man subconsciously and fell silent. What happened? Hwashidu saw that the young lady did not speak, and could not help but chuckle softly. His magnetic and pleasant voice flowed out from his sexy Adam's apple. I'm fine, Bei Yunj said. When the man heard this, his eyes became even darker, and he couldn't see clearly. He suddenly leaned forward and said, You can't bear to part with me? Bei Yunj glanced at him and suddenly smiled. I want to nod. Can you bring me along? Brother only booked one ticket, the man said slowly and pinched the back of the little girl's neck gently. The numb feeling was like an electric current. However, Bei Yunj had just regained her senses when she heard the man change the topic. His voice was lazy and long. It was blatantly seductive, making her blush and her heart race. If Yunj wants to go, you can only sit on brother's lap. This D***MN man. Bei Yunj smiled and reached out to grab the man's hand. I thought that as a domineering president, brother would take me back to take a private plane. Chapter 659. Hwashidu. What kind of drama has this kid been watching recently? Yes, but I rarely use it. This time, I went to our nation at the last minute and didn't have the time to report it. If Union likes it, I'll bring you to play next time? Hwashidu had bought 3 private planes in the past, and 2 of them were in Neely. However, Hwashidu had never been interested in this thing, so most of the time he booked plane tickets. Hwashidu thought for a moment and pinched Bei Yunj's face as a punishment. He said calmly, Don't watch nonsense dramas. It's easy to damage your brain. Bei Yunj laughed and said leisurely, Brother, you go to our nation so frequently. Don't tell me your family has arranged a fiancé for you? Who would have thought? The moment she finished speaking, the man fell silent. Fernans had indeed looked for a few girls for him. Among them, there seemed to be a daughter from a family that old Master Fernans liked very much. He was also thinking of a way to give her to him. Bei Yunj also felt the man's silence. You have a fiancé? Bei Yunj's voice was obviously lighter than usual as she stared at him with her beautiful eyes. However, no one noticed that she was clenching her fists unconsciously. Seeing that the girl had misunderstood, Hwashidu immediately comforted her without thinking. No. Then you have a fiancé candidate. Bei Yunj's mind worked quickly and she immediately guessed most of it. However, just as Bei Yunj was letting her imagination run wild, she accidentally met the man's deep gaze. He stared at her for a while before suddenly chuckling hoarsely. Yes, but you still have to wait for 2 to 3 years. Bei Yunj saw Hwashidu looking at her like this, and had the illusion that Hwashidu was talking about her. It must be fate. For some reason her heart skipped a beat. Back at the Computing Institute, Bei Yunj was still thinking about a certain question, while Si Qingyan looked at Bei Yunj, who was almost an hour late at the agreed time. His eyelids could not help but twitch. Ancestor, you've been there for 2 to 3 hours? Bei Yunj regained her senses and heard Si Qingyan's words. It didn't take long to send Tich and the others off. As for that man, Master Pei, why do you look like you're heartbroken today? This was the first time Si Qingyan had seen Bei Yunj in such a daze. She had been thinking about something. Bei Yunj, why did you call me back? By the way, your situation is very serious. This time among all the members of our institute, you are the most seriously injured. With that, Si Qingyan led Bei Yunj to his office and took out a dozen records. Bei Yunj asked subconsciously after taking it. What happened? The doctor only gave you more than 20 points for the psychological evaluation. Even our recently divorced Uncle Hong scored 59 points. Si Qingyan pinched his glabella. He did not expect Bei Yunj to have such a genius brain and living conditions. She could actually make the lowest psychological evaluation he had ever seen. Then how could others live? Bei Yunj looked at the score and naturally folded her evaluation sheet in half, as if she was not surprised by this score. She said calmly, Will it affect my project? Si Qingyan, did you already know about this? Bei Yunj's eyes were dark and unreadable as she glanced at Si Qingyan casually. Chapter 660. Don't look at me like that. It's useless to silence me. The old master knows about this too. Bei Yunj furrowed her eyebrows and was a little impatient. What can this psychological evaluation mean? It was not the first time she knew that there was something wrong with her. Otherwise, she would not have gone to the psychological clinic so many times in her previous life. However, it was useless even after seeing it for more than 10 years in her previous life. Why should she waste this time and continue reading? Yunj, yes, this evaluation report won't affect you from getting any honors. But the old master is worried about you and I don't want anything to happen to you. After Si Qingyan finished speaking, he saw that Bei Yunj was silent. He knew very well that this fellow was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. Elder Zhong has already arranged a private doctor for you. Bei Yunj's eyelashes fluttered and she glanced at Si Qingyan calmly. Just as Si Qingyan was feeling nervous that Bei Yunj might scold him, he heard her say slowly, Si Qingyan, I won't commit suicide. Hearing this, Si Qingyan's body froze inexplicably. He could not help but look at this arrogant and unruly girl in front of him. He had never thought that one day he would hear with his own ears that the person who said this would be Bei Yunj. Yesterday, when the psychiatrist talked about Bei Yunj's condition, he and old Master Zhong were both there. He found it hard to believe that a proud and arrogant person like Bei Yunj actually had extreme self-denial. To a certain extent, it was accompanied by some special influence in her childhood, causing her to have bipolar type I. Si Qingyan immediately asked, have you used a mood stabilizer in the past? Last time, the doctor had also said that Bei Yunj did not accept his guidance. There were some questions that he could not ask at all. For example, if Bei Yunj had used a mood stabilizer before, it was very likely that Bei Yunj had already lost control of her emotions and had serious symptoms such as hallucinations before. Bei Yunj's fingers paused imperceptibly before she glanced at him slowly and pressed her psychological evaluation report in the middle of the stack of paper. She said lazily, no. Si Qingyan was speechless. With this attitude, he no longer believed that Bei Yunj was telling the truth. He had never failed a psychological evaluation in his entire life. Search, however, this person was quite powerful. It was obvious that there was nothing he couldn't get, and he had the talent that everyone envied, but he had actually made himself into such a state of mind. What the hell? Brother Yan, don't make things difficult for me. I'm improving. Bei Yunj said slowly. Si Qingyan's eyelids twitched. You tested it last time too? How many points? 23. Bei Yunj took a piece of gum from Si Qingyan's table and said frankly. Si Qingyan took another look at Bei Yunj's psychological assessment registration. 31 points. Si Qingyan was speechless. Just a little bit of improvement, it seemed? But who the hell cares how much you improved in your psychological assessment? A failure was a failure. It was just a few extra marks. Was there a need to set off firecrackers in front of the computing institute? Si Qingyan took a deep breath. Before he could speak, he received another call. When Si Qingyan was on the phone, Bei Yunj could feel Si Qingyan's gaze on her from time to time. Bei Yunj was speechless. He suddenly had a bad premonition. Soon after hanging up the phone, as expected, Bei Yunj saw Si Qingyan smiling gently. Elder Zhong has contacted his friend and decided to let you go to the war zone to play for a while. Don't worry about school reopening. He will apply for leave for you. Chapter 661. Why? Bei Yunj's eyebrows moved unconsciously. My project hasn't been completed yet. Besides, she was not interested in the war zone. Si Qingyan was speechless. This fellow was still thinking about her project at a time like this. Si Qingyan took a deep breath. Who asked you to fail the psychological assessment? Bei Yunj was speechless. What did failing the psychological assessment have to do with her going to the war zone? I'm not going. Bei Yunj rejected him without hesitation. Si Qingyan's gaze was intriguing. According to the rules, all official members have to teach in turns. Bei Yunj was speechless. In our nation, Qin Youjiao had just gotten off the plane and did not follow Mr. and Mrs. Qin's instructions to find a nearby hotel. Instead, she got into an extended limousine that had been waiting for a long time and went to a luxurious manor. Miss Qin Yojiao, our miss is waiting for you inside. The butler smiled at Qin Yojiao and brought her to the swimming pool. She saw a graceful woman in a purple waist-length dress lying on a beach chair. The woman seemed to have noticed Qin Yojiao as well. She raised her eyebrows slightly and took off her sunglasses, revealing an exquisite face. Yojiao, I'm so honored. This is our first time meeting. The woman sat up and gestured for Qin Yojiao to sit by the side. Miss Elena. Qin Yojiao revealed an impeccable smile, but facing the elegance and aura of a foreign woman, she could not help but reveal a little nervousness. Indeed, this woman had an extraordinary status at first glance. Just call me Elena. Elena spoke Country A's language naturally and without any accent. Her red lips curved. Are you hungry on the way here? I've already gotten someone to prepare Yin Cheng's cuisine for you. Qin Yojiao was a little surprised. You're too polite. Yojiao, I treat you as a friend. At least, compared to that real young lady with another surname. I hope that you're from the Qin family more. Elena had investigated these two people. The little princess of the Qin family, who had been the center of attention since she was young. The real young lady of the Qin family who was almost mixed in with the crowd, and had poor aptitude in all aspects. In the end, she also felt that Bei Yun should not have come back. So what if Bei Yun was a descendant of the Qin family? Would she fit in with the upper class? Elena liked Qin Luyan, but if she had to choose Qin Luyan's younger sister, she felt that Qin Yojiao was more suitable. Taking a deep breath, Qin Yojiao said unwillingly, but there's no place for me in the family anymore. Now, I hope to participate in the official concert of the International Musicians Association. Attend a concert? Elena chuckled, her eyes filled with charm. Yojiao, aren't you aiming too low? These words made Qin Yojiao freeze. But in the next moment, Elena picked up the glass of red wine and swirled it gently. Her tone was calm and firm as she said, Yojiao, stay here for a year. I'll let you get what you want. Elena smirked. Concert? Members of the International Musicians Association who were level E and above could participate. I'll get Arn to guide you. Within a year, you'll be at least a class D. D class? Qin Yojiao could not regain her senses for a long time. She was too unfamiliar with everything in the International Musicians Association. The woman's fingertips brushed against the cake, and she licked her fingers clean. Her tone was naturally arrogant. Every year at my family gathering, there will be Class B and Class C members of the International Musicians Association playing. Chapter 662. I also know some things about the International Musicians Association. Arn was promoted to Class A this year. Elena said, there are only a handful of Class A members. Every Class A member is also a truly respected international musician. Hearing this, yearning and envy appeared in Qin Yojiao's eyes. When would she be able to become someone like Arn? Yojiao, you're very talented. As long as you study hard, you'll get everything you want very soon. A trace of admiration appeared in Elena's eyes. She did admire Qin Yojiao. Only such a person was qualified to be Qin Luyan's sister. Really? Then I want to know what level that person is at now. Qin Yojiao felt uneasy, but she still wanted to know if she had a chance to surpass that person. You mean Wai Yuan? Elena was silent for a moment before she said, at the end of this year, she will be recommended by Du Xiao to take the cross-level assessment. Cross-level assessment? Qin Yojiao was stunned. I don't know the details either. Du Xiao has taken many confidentiality measures for Wai Yuan. At the mention of Wai Yuan, Elena's expression did not look too good. However, he probably won't let her skip too many levels. No one can skip levels to C or B in one go. After all, even if Du Xiao was the president of the International Musicians Association, other than the International Musicians Association, there was also the International Musicians Alliance in Continent K that restricted each other's development. All these years, the International Musicians Association and the International Musicians Alliance had been friends and enemies. However, now that the person in charge of the International Musicians Alliance had changed to Aoshi, she did not know if they could still maintain such a balanced relationship. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao felt a little better. Pursing her lips, A cold glint flashed past her eyes. She didn't believe that she couldn't surpass that Yun. As for Bei Yunj, ridicule appeared in Qin Youjiao's eyes. Her opponent was Yun, not Bei Yunj, who could not compare to her in anything. As long as her brothers found out that Bei Yunj was really useless, and was not even half as good as her, they would definitely change their minds and treat her as their younger sister again. At this thought, Qin Youjiao felt much better. New school bag website. Her eyes were firm. I'll stay. When she returned to the country, she would make Bei Yunj only worthy of looking up to her. A few days later, border of country A, War Zone 106. The scorching sun was like a torch, the clouds were floating in the distant mountains, the strong wind was swaying the tall pines on the rocks, as if they were vast and mighty in the sky. Nearby, there was only a long road. After getting out of the car, Bei Yunj held the camera and took a picture of this scene calmly. The border protectors at the side. He didn't know what the higher-ups were thinking, sending a delicate little girl over. Moreover, this little girl was obviously spoiled since childhood. Her skin was so fair and tender that it seemed like water could be squeezed out of it. She was most likely a young mistress. She probably thought that this place was for her to go on a scenic tour. Miss, you'd better come with me. The dark-skinned young man said. Did they say how long I have to stay in there? Bei Yunj slowly rolled up the strap of the camera and caught up with the young man. I don't know. The young man said. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched when she heard this. She glanced at the endless road on both sides. Very well, she couldn't go back. Miss, I'll take you to Captain Gao first. Along the way, what surprised the young man in camouflage was that apart from stopping to take photos, Bei Yunj almost stopped communicating with him. Chapter 663. However, speaking of which, this was very strange. In the past, only rich young masters were sent here to be beaten up. Why was a young lady sent here this time? Were people from wealthy families advocating equality between men and women now? They wouldn't even let a little girl off. Perhaps it was because Bei Yunj was too quiet that the young man in camouflage couldn't help but nag. Zhuo suddenly asked, How many days do you want to stay here? Bei Yunj laughed and fiddled with her camera lazily. Let's leave as soon as possible. In her previous life, she was tired of staying. Although in her previous life, she liked to stay in the war zone. This was probably the first time Zhuo had met such a clear-headed rich man. Don't you want to experience it? You're too clear-headed. The person who was sent here this year was really different from the people who were sent here in the past. Bei Yunj looked at him again and said leisurely, Do I look like someone who's willing to suffer? Zhuo was speechless. He couldn't see any major flaws in Bei Yunj's personality, although she was a little too rational. In the past, the young masters who were sent here all looked down their noses, thinking that they were some big shot. However, the person who came today was a little unpredictable, sweat flowed down from the texture of his muscles. Bei Yunj glanced at him and looked away, until they entered the training ground. From afar, Bei Yunj saw a group of real warriors. They were shirtless, revealing their firm chests. Weren't they too good-looking? Soon. However, when they saw Zhuo with a fair and pretty girl who looked like a fairy, their legs almost turned to jelly. Where did this little fairy come from? Captain Gao nodded and glanced at Bei Yunj indifferently. He didn't know Bei Yunj's identity. He only knew that old Master Lung had sent her here. Bei Yunj was sent to Captain Gao. At this moment, Captain Gao was training with more than 20 team members. Miss Pei. Captain Gao glanced at Bei Yunj and saw that the girl was wearing a sparkling golden skirt and a loose black suit. Only the cuffs were embroidered with exquisite golden patterns. She was also wearing a pair of leather black high heels. He said that although the young lady was here for training, she must not be allowed to encounter any physical threats. It was obvious that old Master Lung was very nervous about this delicate young lady. Captain Gao, I'm sorry. I don't understand. Bei Yunj, she didn't feel any psychological pressure at all. The girl's black hair was loose and curly, draping over her shoulders. Her eyes were bright and languid, too exquisite and beautiful. Do you know that you came to the war zone today? Captain Gao took a deep breath. Bei Yunj. Who would have thought? Suddenly, Someone pointed at her and said in disbelief, trembling. Hui also looked at her warily. What are you doing here? Soon Pei Yunj turned around and saw Hui. Miss Pei, is this your first time in the war zone? Sergeant Gao asked. Just now, this young lady had said with an innocent face that she didn't know much about this. Wasn't this Miss Pei too vengeful? Could it be that she knew that he had been demoted here, so she came here specially? In the end, this newcomer, Hui, actually recognized Pei Yunj at a glance. Pei Yunj's eyebrows twitched, and she glanced at Hui beside her. Chapter 664. Tell me, how did you get to know her? Captain Gao asked Hui. Hui was about to blurt it out, but he was afraid of offending Pei Yunj. After all, after seeing Pei Yunj play with guns last time, he was already traumatized by this Missy. I met her when I was accompanying Captain Ji on a mission. Hui felt a little guilty. The Ji family seems to have a good relationship with Miss Pei's family. Hearing this, Sergeant Gao also took a look and roughly understood what was going on. Ji Yiqing was also a famous big shot in the district. Everyone knew that Ji Yiqing's Ji family referred to the Ji family, which had been a family of generals for generations. The Ji family was also a prestigious family in the upper-class society. It was normal for them to know some Missy from a wealthy family. Captain Gao glanced at Pei Yunj and said indifferently, I'll get someone to prepare clothes for you tomorrow. From tomorrow onwards, you have to follow the rules. Pei Yunj was speechless. At this moment, Pei Yunj felt more and more that Si Qingyan and Elder Zhong were tricking her. She had failed the psychological evaluation, and they had brought her to this god-forsaken place? At this thought, Pei Yunj scanned the other places impatiently. However, the next moment, she saw the surveillance camera from the corner of her eye. After a while, Pei Yunj licked her red lips as her pretty eyes narrowed slightly. Then, she laughed lazily and glanced at the camera carelessly. Soon she turned her head. At this moment, everyone in the control room almost had their hearts jump out of their throats. Isn't this girl too smart? That look just now scared me to death. Meishu Bar Old Master Lung touched his heart. The handsome doctor in a white coat beside him curled his lips as interest flashed across his eyes. She's my patient? At first, Cui Hingchuan saw that this girl was obviously not smart to come to the war zone dressed like this. But now, it seemed that no one was better at hiding themselves than this person. No wonder his junior brother said that he could not do anything to Pei Yunj when he went to treat her. A patient who was unwilling to cooperate with the doctor was indeed very troublesome. Especially a smart patient. Yes, Dr. Cui, I'll leave Guer to you during this time. Zhong Shenglin, who was next to him, was the most nervous. Since he knew that Pei Yunj had bipolar I, he could hardly relax. How could he have such a psychological problem at his age? Cui Hingchuan observed Pei Yunj's behavior, while making notes. He curled his lips and teased. All these years, Old Master Lung has never let me out. It seems like this girl has a big start. Hingchuan, nothing must happen to this child. Then Cui Hingchuan heard him pause for a moment. This is not just my idea. It's also the higher-up's idea. Hearing this, Cui Hingchuan's eyes flashed with surprise. He did not expect that the person leading this matter was not Old Master Lung, but the higher-ups. I know, but I can only do my best. Mental illnesses are difficult to control, let alone treat. Cui Hingchuan looked at the girl in the video for a while and couldn't help but mutter to himself. A girl like this shouldn't suffer like this. Dr. Cui, what are you talking about? Zhong Shenglin asked. Cui Hingchuan came back to his senses and smiled. Nothing. What we need to do now is to find the cause of Miss Pei's illness. At the training ground. Chapter 665. Pei Yunj hesitated for a moment, and prepared to turn around and leave. Seeing this scene, Captain Gao was confused. Miss Pei, where are you going? Captain Gao's eyelids twitched. I'm going to watch you train from the side. Pei Yunj's tone was gentle. She really sounded like a young lady who did not know anything, but her beautiful eyes were lazy and clear. No one could understand the emotions in her eyes. Miss Pei, do you think you're here for a vacation? Captain Gao was silent for a moment before he looked at her with a fake smile. At this moment, the team members who were preparing to train felt an unusual sense of danger and coldness in Captain Gao's tone. Captain Gao hated those young ladies and young masters who did not know anything the most. Who was it that sent such a good-looking young miss with no redeeming qualities to him? Bei Yunji's emotions were incomprehensible as she glanced at Captain Gao. And this scene was captured by the monitor. Zhong Shenglin was extremely nervous. He patted Old Master Lung's back hard and shouted protectively, "What kind of subordinate is this? Look at my Gu'er. Is she here to suffer? My Gu'er's hands are much more useful than these uncouth people." Old Master Lung was almost out of breath from the pat. He pushed Zhong Shenglin away. Gao Yang's temper is like this. Now that we're in this district, I'm relieved to hand her over to him. Also, don't make a distinction between us. What do you mean by us uncouth people? Zhong Shenglin was not in the mood to argue with him. He stared at Bei Yunji nervously and suddenly thought of Bei Yunji's temper. His heart skipped a beat. I almost forgot. Gu'er's temper doesn't seem to be very good. She can't possibly fight with someone, right? Old Master Lung glanced at Zhong Shenglin in confusion and smiled nonchalantly. Who knew? Zhong Shenglin was silent and just looked at him silently. Book 8. Old Master Lung. Then just as Old Master Lung and the others turned to look at the screen, they saw Bei Yunji walking towards Captain Gao. However, he had no intention of causing trouble. Old Master Lung and Zhong Shenglin heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, at least they didn't cause a ruckus. Old Master Lung could not help but say, Gu'er shouldn't be that scary when she's angry, right? Do you know why Ji Yiqing's last mission was suddenly resolved? Zhong Shenglin glanced at him meaningfully. Last mission? Isn't that a high-tech terrorist? Old Master Lung asked subconsciously. Those people sent Gu'er a pair of bloody eyeballs, threatening Gu'er with death. After Zhong Shenglin finished speaking, Old Master Lung gasped. This group of people was really lawless. How was it resolved later? Zhong Shenglin said calmly. Gu'er found our nation's technology group, as well as our nation's international police and Marcus. She locked onto the gang's headquarters and wiped them out in one go. It was said that because that group of people had set up their headquarters in the no man's land, it was directly bombed to the point where only broken walls and ruins were left. If he were to handle this matter, he might not be able to deal with it. After all, he was from Country A. However, at that time, Bei Yunji was a member of our nation's Institute of Computational Technology. The higher-ups of our nation were also very concerned about Bei Yunji's personal safety and future nationality choice. Therefore, after being instigated by Marcus, the higher-ups directly dealt with that group of people. How could a scientific research genius who was valued by the country be allowed to be in danger? Chapter 666. He had heard about this occasionally, but he did not know that it had something to do with Bei Yunji. Isn't this girl's vengeful heart a little too strong? Zhong Shenglin had always been protective. He retorted, which young lady can accept being given eyeballs? But no little girl would destroy their gang headquarters just because a pair of eyeballs had been given to her by a terrorist. Thinking of this, Old Master Lung felt his scalp go numb. However, speaking of which, with Bei Yunji's personality, she was really suitable to be his successor. Just as Old Master Lung was deep in thought, a call suddenly came in. What happened? Old Master Lung asked. The spy we caught last time escaped. There are foreign criminals involved, and the car escorting the spy suffered heavy casualties. Old Master Lung, what should we do? When Old Master Lung heard this, his expression changed. What do you mean, what should we do? Hurry up and seal the country's borders. Don't let any of them escape. If that spy returned, it would have a huge impact on Country A. They must not let him leave. Yes, I'll arrange for someone to chase after him now. At the same time, at the training ground, even number 1 column, odd number 1 column, I want you to split into 2 teams and fight in the area. With that, Captain Gao distributed the red and blue team badges. Reporting. Team Red is still short of 1 person. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone realized that Captain Gao had a red team badge in his hand. Captain Gao said slowly, Who said that? As soon as he finished speaking, Everyone saw Captain Gao turn his head and look at Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj, who was taking photos everywhere, happened to meet Captain Gao's eyes. The members of Team Red were speechless. They suddenly had a bad feeling. Bei Yunj, you're a member of Team Red now. Captain Gao said calmly. Reporting, Captain Gao. But in the past, no outsider has ever trained with us in actual combat. Someone from Team Red immediately protested. In the past, even if someone came, they would only practice shooting with them and carry out daily training. Now, there was a woman who looked like she could be blown away. What was going on with actual combat training with them? This is an order. I will give you 2 flags. Protecting the flags is your mission. Whoever can protect their flag until the end will win this exercise. After that, everyone saw Sergeant Gao carry 2 bags and pass them to their captain. Then Sergeant Gao glanced at Bei Yunj and asked, "Are you ready? When you're ready, you can leave." A few minutes later, Ajwa hurried over and asked curiously, "Where's Miss Pei?" "Training." Captain Gao was unmoved. Ajwa suddenly panicked and immediately said, "Captain Gao, this is not old Master Lung's man. Don't be too strict. Those who come to the war zone, regardless of whether they are sent here, are all the same." Sergeant Gao's tone was cold. "Where is she now?" Great Eagle Forest. As soon as Captain Gao finished speaking, Zhuo almost had a heart attack. This was their field training ground. How could they let someone without any fighting ability go to the Great Eagle Forest? "Captain Gao, if anything happens to her, how are you going to explain it to old Master Lung?" "I will take full responsibility." Sergeant Gao frowned. In the monitoring room, Zhong Shenglin frowned. "What's going on? Where are you sending Gu?" Old Master Lung, who had just finished the call and knew where Bei Yunj had been arranged to go, had an ugly expression on his face. "This Gao Yang is really a bastard. What's going on?" Zhong Shenglin could not help but ask. Chapter 667. That bastard. He sent her to the Great Eagle Forest. Cui Hengchuan's eyes flashed and his knuckles moved. Great Eagle Forest? This was the place where the team members trained. What Great Eagle Forest? Old Lung, speak clearly. Zhong Shenglin suddenly had a bad feeling. Indeed. The next moment, Old Master Lung pursed his lips. It's the place where the people in our district train. Combat training? Are you King kidding me? Zhong Shenglin slammed the table and stood up with an ugly expression. No. Get her back now. She's already gone. It's impossible for her to come back. Old Master Lung took a deep breath. I don't care. If anything happens to her, do you think it's a King joke? Zhong Shenglin was instantly enraged. He sent Bei Yunj here because it was convenient for Cui Hengchuan to observe Bei Yunj and treat Bei Yunj's psychological illness as soon as possible. He did not send Bei Yunj here to risk her life. If not for Cui Hengchuan's special identity, would he have sent his heir to this godforsaken place? Elder Zhong, calm down first. Actually, I don't know what will happen. Cui Hengchuan was the first to react and said, Old Master Lung, why don't you get Captain Gao to give the order for the team members to protect Miss Pei's safety? Sure. After Old Master Lung finished speaking, he patted Zhong Shenglin's shoulder. It'll be fine. Trust me. Although the Great Eagle Forest is dangerous, the others will definitely be able to protect Gu-er. Let me tell you, if my Gu-er loses a drop of blood and a little skin, that guy with the surname Gao must be punished. Zhong Shenglin said expressionlessly. This? Old Master Lung hesitated. Zhong Shenglin sneered. Old Master Lung, that's not just anyone. Do you know what kind of conditions Country R has offered to poach her? As soon as he finished speaking, Old Master Lung remained silent. Cui Hengchuan's eyes flashed. ? That girl was? He had always thought that he was at least 30 or 40 years old. Zhong Shenglin finally realized that he had exposed Bei Yunj's true identity. He pursed his lips and didn't say anything. The next moment, Old Master Lung said helplessly, Got it. I'll make the arrangements. If anything happens to Gu-er, I'll make sure Gao Yang receives the appropriate punishment. After saying that, Old Master Lung looked at Cui Hengchuan beside him. Dr. Cui, I hope you can keep this matter a secret. After all, Guer's information is not allowed to be made public. I understand. Hearing old Master Lung's words, Cui Hingchuan was finally sure that this girl was really. He's actually so young. Cui Hingchuan glanced at Bei Yunji's personal information. He was not even 20 years old. He actually had such an achievement. No wonder Zhong Xinglin and old Master Lung were so nervous about Bei Yunji. Researchers like her were indeed important targets of protection. Not long after, Captain Gao received a call from old Master Lung, and was even scolded to his face. In the end, he was given a mission that he had to carry out. Protect Bei Yunji. This made Captain Gao unhappy, but he had no choice but to give this order to the two teams. In the helicopter, when the members of Team Blue heard the voice from the walkie-talkie, they could not help but look at Bei Yunji. Bei Yunji changed her clothes before boarding the helicopter. She had just sat down and set up the communication device when she saw everyone looking at her with a complicated gaze. What's the matter? Bei Yunji glanced at them indifferently. What's your name? Captain Chen Hu asked. Chapter 668. This was the first time he had heard Captain Gao give such an order. Captain Gao did not sound like he was in a good mood. Bei Yunji, what does your family do? Chen Hu liked this little sister. If his sister grew up to be as good-looking as Bei Yunji, how great would that be? She runs a company. Bei Yunji thought for a while. Hearing that, the others looked at Bei Yunji with a as expected look in their eyes. She was really a rich girl. Do you have an older brother? Chen Hu rubbed the back of his head and gave a simple and honest smile. All right, brother who is talking about his sister again. The team member next to him teased. Yes. Bei Yunji said lightly. How is your relationship with them? Chen Hu's eyes lit up. Very bad. Chen Hu. Very good. End of topic. What's going on? Our red team has one less person than the blue team, and we still have to protect a burden. One of the young troublemakers said impatiently. He did not care about Bei Yunji at all. Bei Yunji glanced at the young boy carelessly. She knew in her heart that that burden was referring to her. Aya, what's wrong? You're not willing to protect the little fairy. A frail-looking boy wearing glasses next to him laughed. Protect my ass. Who the hell wants to be accompanied by a woman on a mission? That person roared angrily. Hearing that, Chen Hu frowned. What do you mean by following a woman? Do you think you can inherit the throne with just a woman? Watch your mouth. Don't the blue team have a female comrade too? The troublemaker's face turned green. Then he glanced at Bei Yunji and sneered. Daidan next door is not bad, but what about this one? Xiang Hongtao, you, alright. Shut up. Chen Hu scolded and glanced at Xiang Hongtao. Will you be unwilling to protect the hostages when you're on a mission in the future? Xiang Hongtao saw that the people around him did not say anything to help him and sneered. After glancing at Bei Yunji, he nodded. All right, then let's just say we're protecting the hostages. I hope this spoiled hostage can give me less trouble. Bei Yunji glanced at him and sneered. What are you laughing at? Xiang Hongtao was immediately enraged. I'm fine, Bei Yunji said slowly. It's just that I thought that only animals can't control their mouths. What did you say? Xiang Hongtao was furious. He gritted his teeth and stared at Bei Yunji. His eyes were almost spitting fire, and his knuckles were cracking. The others also unconsciously fell silent. This young miss was too bold with her words. You don't understand? Bei Yunji raised his eyebrows. There was a faint smile in his eyes. He said playfully, watch your mouth. Don't bark like an animal. Understood? Xiang Hongtao's face darkened. He suddenly stood up and wanted to walk towards Bei Yunji. How dare you say that? Xiang Hongtao. Chen Hu interrupted his thoughts. Get lost if you don't want to train. Instantly. Xiang Hongtao pursed his lips and suppressed the anger in his heart. A few minutes later, he sat back down. Chen Hu also had a headache over Xiang Hongtao. Xiang Hongtao was clearly the most outstanding person in this group, but he was also the most troublesome. With this personality, he would suffer in the future sooner or later. This girl's words are really vicious. Old Master Lung sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 669. Due to the sudden kidnapping of the spy, Old Master Lung left the surveillance room first and contacted the higher-ups. Only Zhong Shenglin and Cui Hengchuan were there. Zhong Shenglin saw that Cui Hengchuan did not take notes and could not help but ask, "Will there really be any results from observing like this? No matter how strong a warrior's psychological defense is, there will be flaws in their expressions when they face an unknown territory." Cui Hengchuan raised his eyebrows. His eyes were as dark as ink, and his tone was gentle and calm. But if Miss Pei also knows psychology, then this will be troublesome. He had seen all kinds of patients, and there were also those who hid their illnesses for fear of treatment. However, these people could not be figured out. He could control their psychology very well. But Bai Yunj, he was not sure. At least until now, he had not observed any useful information. "I'm not sure either." Zhong Xinglin's eyelids twitched. Who knew what Bai Yunj knew? Physics, mathematics, medicine. He did not know how Bai Yunj's brain worked. She knew more or less all of them. How could an ordinary person have the energy to learn so many fields? Continue observing. There might be a breakthrough. While they were chatting, the two teams had already negotiated a few times in the Great Eagle Forest. Team Red was in a sorry state. F***CK, is Team Blue shameless? They like to ambush so much. Team Red could not help but curse. Chunhu wiped his sweat and chuckled. You can't blame them. Black and white cats. A good cat that catches mice is a good cat. I think it's mainly because we don't have enough manpower. Behind Chunhu, someone complained. Not only do we have one less person than Team Blue, but we also have to spare energy to protect people. Chunhu glanced at him. Miss Pei performed well. At least she didn't cause us any trouble. Team Blue didn't attack Miss Pei either, so don't blame others for the failure. Hearing this, that person wanted to say something but hesitated. He could only lower his head angrily, feeling indignant. If they lost again in this combat exercise, not to mention punishment, he and his brothers would be mocked again. Team Red had lost 3 times in a row and could not raise their heads in the district. At this moment, Chunhu added, however, the female comrade of Team Blue is indeed powerful. They had almost been completely wiped out because Dai Dan had locked onto their approximate location based on the terrain. Hearing this, the team member who was beside Pei Yunj and protecting her nodded and said enviously, "Of course. Dai Dan graduated from the computing department of Yin University." With that, the team member protecting Pei Yunj could not help but look at Pei Yunj and ask curiously, "Sister, what did you learn? Which university?" Pei Yunj said lazily, "I haven't gone to university yet. I repeated a year, and am in my 2nd year of high school now." To her. Beside her, Xiang Hongtao laughed coldly and said to the team member protecting Pei Yunj with a mocking tone, "Do you think you can be like Dai Dan just because you're a woman?" Xiang Hongtao. The team member protecting Pei Yunj did not have the intention to do so either. Hearing Xiang Hongtao's words, he immediately shouted a warning at him. This scene was recorded on the monitor. Captain Gao, who came to look for Old Master Lung, happened to see this scene. He hid the mockery in his eyes. "Why are Dr. Cui and Elder Zhong here?" To observe the patient. Cui Hengchuan's tone was gentle. He was wearing a white coat and was a little out of place with the surrounding environment. Then, Sergeant Gao also felt that the way Zhong Shenglin looked at him was a little hostile and cold. Chapter 670. I have to keep an eye on our treasure in case something happens to it in your district. His tone was clearly filled with mockery. Captain Gao didn't quite understand why Zhong Shenglin was suddenly so hostile towards him. However, with Zhong Shenglin's status and reputation, he couldn't afford to offend him. Hence, Captain Gao also sat at the side and quietly watched the situation on the screen. On the monitor, Team Red had been suppressed by Team Blue the entire time. If this went on, Team Red would probably lose in less than 2 days. At this moment, Bai Yunj kicked the gravel under her feet and glanced around. After a moment of silence, she said to the team member who had been protecting her, "White Bear, can you lend me your computer?" White Bear seemed to be the team member's code name. Bai Yunj didn't ask much and didn't care about this name. Hearing this, White Bear thought that Bai Yunj wanted to play games. He hesitated for a moment. Girl, I don't have time to play games for you now. Why don't I let you play during the night break? Bae-yunj was speechless. At this moment, in the monitoring room, Choi Hung-chwan's eyes lit up when he saw this scene. His slender and good-looking hands immediately took notes. Even Jong Sheng-lin couldn't help but smile when he saw Bae-yunj being despised. Captain Gao was the only one who frowned. Did Bae-yunj understand the rules? She still wanted to play games at this time? Captain Gao looked listless, and then turned to look at Team Blue. He suddenly lost interest in Team Red. In the team, there were also people who had the same thoughts as Captain Gao. White Bear, you want to let Miss Pei play games on a high-end computer? Xiang Hongtao couldn't help but sneer. There should be a lot of private files on your computer, right? Aren't you afraid that they will leak? Miss Pei definitely won't. Besides, private files are all locked. Bae-yunj looked up at White Bear, who was more than 9 meters tall. Before she could think of what to say, she suddenly heard the alarm in front. Everyone, be careful of the nearby minefields. After saying this, before Bae-yunj could react, she heard White Bear say, Sorry for offending Miss Pei. Bae-yunj had just turned her head when someone suddenly hugged her leg and lifted her up gently. The next moment, she sat on the White Bear's strong arm. Miss Pei, it'll be very uncomfortable if your shoes get wet. A serious look appeared on White Bear's honest face. He held Bae-yunj's calf with one hand and didn't have any intention of overstepping his boundaries. Bae-yunj looked at the small river that they had to cross. Thank you. Why did she suddenly feel so weak? Let me get you a computer. Bae-yunj did not give up and added, I'll hold it. It won't get wet. White Bear didn't think much of it. He handed the laptop that he was holding to Bae-yunj. In the forest, Bae-yunj sat on White Bear's arm and slowly turned on the computer. Everyone turned their heads and saw this scene. When they had first been given the task of protecting Bae-yunj, only White Bear had a good temper and was willing to carry a burden. Looking at the others, who would be willing to accept this task. Bae-yunj, don't go overboard. What right do you have to sit on White Bear's arm? Xiang Hongtao was furious. He saw that Bae-yunj didn't even need to walk. She was really sitting on White Bear and playing on the computer. I was the one who brought Miss Pei up. Miss Pei won't feel good if her shoes get wet. White Bear said honestly. Chapter 671. Bae-yunj said lazily, Thank you, Brother Bear. Seeing this scene, Xiang Hongtao's entire face darkened. He couldn't help but glance at White Bear and scold. No wonder everyone says you're trash. After that, Xiang Hongtao walked up angrily. Bae-yunj lowered his head. Seeing that White Bear didn't seem to care, he asked, Brother Bear, aren't you angry? I'll be angry. White Bear nodded. Bae-yunj. This temper was indeed too good. Bae-yunj glanced at him and didn't say anything else. Instead, he casually entered White Bear's computer system and added an anti-decryption to White Bear's confidential documents. With White Bear's personality, it was really easy for him to be cheated of confidential documents. At that time, not to mention whether he could stay in the war zone, he might even be held accountable. After a while, White Bear caught up with the team members in front. Chun-Hu glanced at Bae-yunj, who was sitting on White Bear's arm, and his eyelids twitched. But he didn't say anything. He coughed softly. All right, there's a minefield next to us. Everyone, pay attention to the southwest. Be careful of an ambush. If we get ambushed again this time, we'll really be wiped out. Do you hear me? Yes. Everyone said in unison. But suddenly, a clear voice sounded. What's the rate of hidden lightning in the minefield? Everyone was stunned. Only White Bear reacted and said, The south of the minefield is a new one. Almost everyone knows the location of the hidden lightning. The rate of hidden lightning is less than 45%. The back of the minefield is an old one that hasn't been dug out. The rate is more than 75%. It's very difficult to cross the minefield safely. After saying that, Chun-Hu's eyes lit up and he immediately reacted. Team Red, listen to my command. Everyone, pay attention to the south of the minefield. Get ready to move forward. As soon as he finished speaking, Except for White Bear, who hid behind a tree with Bei Yunj. Everyone was ready to cross the minefield. They didn't have time to think about why Bei Yunj's reaction was faster than their captain's. Miss Pei is not simple. This was Cui Hengchuan's first comment on Bei Yunj. Especially in the monitor just now. He had seen Bei Yunj's computer screen analyzing the terrain of the Great Eagle Forest. Sergeant Gao, who had just turned his head, did not notice this scene. He only thought that Bei Yunj was a blind cat that hit a dead mouse. She actually guessed correctly. Team Blue was indeed guarding the south of the minefield. Meanwhile, the blue team member lying in ambush in the southwest direction passed a message to the captain. No one from the red team approached. This puzzled the blue team. The leader of the blue team frowned. How is that possible? How could they not be there? Dai Dan looked at the terrain of the Great Eagle Forest and thought for a while before coming to a realization. Captain, the red team is coming our way. What? Everyone in the blue team was shocked. They didn't expect Team Red to suddenly discover their ambush. Everyone listen to my orders. Do not act rashly. Prepare for battle. The leader of the blue team quickly calmed down, and a dark light flashed across his eyes. They still have to protect the hostages. Since the lamb has barged in, brothers, prepare to end the drill today. Yes. The blue team held their breaths and waited for Team Red to arrive. Meanwhile, Team Red, who had changed their direction in the forest, was still moving forward. Wait a minute, there's a low-lying area after going around the south. Which one of you can go around it? Bei Yunj looked at the terrain on the screen and asked unhurriedly. There was a hint of laziness in her eyes. Everyone. How did she know? Chapter 672. Soon. White Bear asked the questions that everyone wanted to ask. How did you know, Miss Pei? Bei Yunj lowered her head and glanced at him. Then she said calmly, I saw the plants growing over there and analyzed them. At this moment, in the surveillance room, Zhong Shenglin and the others, who were looking at Bei Yunj's computer screen, were speechless. Captain Gao was stunned for a long time before he came back to his senses and asked, How did she get our terrain? She's cheating. This terrain map could not be used by the members of the actual combat practice. No one gave it to her. Zhong Shenglin rolled his eyes. Then Captain Gao was about to say something when Old Master Lung's voice sounded from behind. Where did Gur get the internal map? The few people in the room were almost shocked by Old Master Lung. When did this person come in? Zhong Shenglin rolled his eyes. How would I know if you're asking me? She probably hacked into your system. Only Zhong Shenglin could say this so casually so early in the morning. The two people in the war zone were a little silent. You're in the F*King war zone, hacking the war zone system? She even knows this? Old Master Lung's eyelids twitched. Didn't they say that she was a scientific researcher? That's right. Our Gu even made the headlines before. Zhong Shenglin smiled lovingly and proudly. Old Master Lung was speechless. That was why he had always hated high-tech criminals. She was too F*King arrogant. Who exactly is she? Captain Gao looked at this scene and finally realized that something was wrong. Old Master Lung patted his shoulder. It's not convenient to tell you at this time. But if anything happens to her, Gao Yang, you might really be held accountable. Hearing this, worryless, Gao Yang suddenly had a bad premonition. Zhong Shenglin suddenly remembered something and glanced at Old Master Lung. Why did you come back? It's nothing. I just heard that the spy over there escaped. It happened to be in our area, so I got someone to chase after him. Old Master Lung shrugged. Zhong Shenglin. Don't tell me it could be the Great Eagle Forest. Old Master Lung, who had just relaxed, suddenly became nervous. He could not help but curse in his heart. He had really forgotten about this. What if they happened to run into the red team? And in the Great Eagle Forest. Just as everyone was about to listen to Bei Yunj, Xiang Hongtao suddenly interrupted. Don't believe her. Xiang Hongtao glanced coldly at Bei Yunj and sneered. How many plants can a high school student recognize? What if she's mistaken? Won't we lose again this time? After that, Xiang Hongtao raised his chin. Let's go straight in. While the blue team isn't paying attention, We'll annihilate them in one fell swoop. Idiot. Bei Yunj sneered. What did you say? Xiang Hongtao's anger flared up. Who do you think you are? What right does a pampered young lady have to talk about me like that? The low bushes in the southwest area are less than 5 minutes away from the minefield. From the time we walked here, the blue team could have calculated our location. 3 minutes ago, the blue team members in the southwest area might have already provided information to the blue team members near the minefield. Bei Yunj said indifferently. Or perhaps Comrade has the courage to sacrifice herself and go scout the way alone? As soon as she finished speaking. Chapter 673. Just now, they were still doubting the authenticity of Bei Yunj's words. Now they almost completely believed Bei Yunj. Miss Peiyu. Chunhu hesitated for a second. The next moment, he was interrupted by Xiang Hongtao. Captain, are you really going to believe a high school student? As soon as he finished speaking, before Chunhu could think, the sound of a wooden gun suddenly came from not far away. This caused everyone to be stunned. White Bear carefully protected Bei Yunj as he moved his tall body to the side of the tree. Captain, this sound doesn't sound like the gun we use for practice. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. It's a real gun. Hearing that, the others immediately woke up. They didn't have time to think about how Bei Yunj could tell. What's going on? Are they playing with a real wooden gun next door? Do they have a grudge against our team? Someone asked in a curious manner. After that, Chen, who was the first to react. His expression was solemn. Be careful. They might not be from Team Blue. This scene. It was also recorded on camera. Old Master Lung, who was in front of the camera, stood up abruptly. His heart was already tense. Could it really be such a coincidence? Lung, quickly find someone to save her. Guer is still there. If anything happens to her, how am I supposed to live? Zhong Shenglin was agitated and furious. At this moment, Captain Gao almost thought that Zhong Shenglin was Bei Yunj's biological grandfather. Captain Gao asked subconsciously, Elder Zhong, is that your biological granddaughter? I'm your head. That's F** King. Do you know? Zhong Shenglin was about to suffocate. Butler. He brought her to the district for the sake of Bei Yunj's physical and mental health. He felt that it was safer here. But in the end? They met armed men. When Captain Gao heard this, he felt that this name was a little familiar. A few seconds later, Captain Gao suddenly woke up. How is this possible? How could it be a little girl who wasn't even 20 years old? Brother Zhong, don't get too worked up. I'll mobilize all my men right now. Don't get too worked up. Old Master Lung also felt guilty. Zhong Xinglin's men got into trouble in his territory. It was the safest place in country A. At this time, seeing how excited Zhong Shenglin and Old Master Lung were, Captain Gao's expression changed. No wonder Zhong Shenglin and Old Master Lung were nervous about this girl all the way. He had originally thought that she was some rich young lady of a noble family. But unexpectedly, it turned out to be. If something were to happen, it would be hard for him to absolve himself of the blame. Sergeant Gao's expression changed, and he immediately issued an order into his earpiece. Attention, Team Blue and Team Red. The drill was interrupted. You must use all means to protect Miss Pei. Only then did Sergeant Gao panic. He didn't know what Zhong Shenglin was thinking. Why did he send a weak and gentle scientific researcher to the district? If anything happened to those hands, it would be a loss to the country. At this moment, Old Master Lung was also very busy. He was on the phone. Do you not understand human language? We need more manpower here. Now immediately, mobilize the Falcon team and the Wolf team. Order? At this critical moment, you're telling me that you need an order from the higher-ups. When Old Master Lung heard this, his expression almost cracked. Old Master Zhong pushed him away. Let me say it. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhong Shenglin held the phone and quickly said, I'm Zhong Shenglin from the Computing Institute. Special circumstances. Chapter 674. You're in the district too? After the other party recovered from his shock, he reacted. Wait, the emergency is... Zhong Shenglin could not stand the other party's nagging. Go and contact the captains of Team Falcon and Team Wolf. Tell them about the emergency at the Computing Institute. They'll understand. With that said, Zhong Shenglin hung up the phone. Old Master Lung asked in confusion. You know the captains of Team Falcon and Team Wolf? Ah. Yes, before the Computing Institute, they were the ones who took turns to protect Zhong Shenglin did not know much about the captains in the district. However, when Old Master Lung heard this, his eyelids twitched. He could not even borrow the people from these two teams. He did not expect the higher-ups to be so generous. Such an outstanding team was used to protect Beiyang in turn. They were really willing to spend money. However, it was true that there had been foreign personnel who had deliberately harmed well-known researchers. And a scientific research genius like Beiyang should indeed put in effort to ensure her safety. At the same time, when Team Blue and Team Red suddenly received this order, they could not help but be puzzled. What was the identity of this excessively beautiful little girl? At this moment, Beiyang also felt the gazes of the people around her. Don't worry, I will take good care of Miss Pei. Bai Xiong's words made Sergeant Gao's eyes brim with tears of joy. Whether he could keep his job depended on White Bear. Fortunately, there was White Bear. Otherwise, if it were anyone else, who would be so stubborn and serious? Beiyang subconsciously curled her lips and said lazily, Thank you, Brother Bear. White Bear lowered his head in embarrassment and said, Miss Pei, if you're thirsty, I'll get you some water. What's wrong with you? You're still willing to mess around with a rich young lady when you're fighting at the front line? Xiang Hongtao said irritably. In the surveillance room, Pythagorean bookstore Zhong Shenglin smiled and turned to ask Captain Gao. Captain Gao, is this troublemaker's attitude very familiar? Captain Gao was speechless. No one was more protective and vengeful than Elder Zhong. Captain Gao was a little embarrassed, especially since he had been trying to figure out Beiyang just now. He said helplessly, I'm sorry, Elder Zhong. I'll wait for Miss Pei to come out and apologize personally. Now I hope more than anyone that Miss Pei can come back safely. That was this year's nominees for the Fari Something and Bu Something Something awards. He was worthy of being called the #1 dark horse in the scientific research field. Zhong Shenglin was still unhappy. Who told Captain Gao to send his to Great Eagle Forest? At this moment, just as Team Red was about to look for Team Blue, they suddenly saw the figure of a woman. It was Daidan. However, he seemed to be in a sorry state. Something happened over there. Someone from another country has broken into our training ground. 1 dead and 1 injured. Daidan didn't look too good. She glanced at Beiyang and didn't say anything. Her martial prowess was nothing compared to the others. Hence, the leader of the blue team told her to seek help from the red team. At the critical moment, the opponent was also a teammate. I understand. Where's Fatty? Chen, who was talking about the leader of the blue team. I'm not sure yet. When I came, they were suppressed and couldn't leave. Daidan was anxious. Brother Hu, go and save Brother Fatty and the others. Brothers, we're all ready. Let's see who's so bold to bully our brothers in our territory. Chapter 675. Okay, let's make sure these bastards don't return. They changed into their real weapons. But before they were ready to set off, an order suddenly sounded in their earpiece. Red team, don't be impulsive. Leave half of your team to protect Miss Beiyang. That's what you should do. Sergeant Gao's voice sounded again. This made Xiang Hongtao furious. Are they serious? They still want to send people to take care of this miss? Xiang Hongtao was the first to glance coldly at Beiyang. The others did not suspect anything. If they received the order, Xiang Hongtao would be the one to take care of Beiyang. Xiang Hongtao would most likely disobey the order. Let's make a plan first and go save her. Daidan said lightly. After that, she took out her laptop and opened it. She pulled up a map and roughly located the intruder's address. After a short discussion, Chen, who left with half of the red team while the others stayed. Did someone ask you to protect me? Bei Yunj frowned without batting an eyelid. The others were silent. Although they knew that this had nothing to do with Bei Yunj, their brother was in danger now. They did not have a good expression. Only White Bear said, "Miss Pei, don't worry. We're here. We won't let anything happen to you." He thought that Bei Yunj was afraid. "That's not what I meant." Bei Yunj slowly moved the mouse arrow on the laptop. "What I meant was that I don't need you to protect me." In her previous life, she had encountered a crisis because she was young. But after that, she had stayed in the district. Someone had taught her a lot. She really did not need to be protected. "Miss Pei, if I didn't have to spend energy on you, my friends would have a higher chance of survival." Dai Dan glanced at Bei Yunj and said calmly. Everyone noticed that Dai Dan's hands were clenched into fists. She was already suppressing her anger and speaking politely to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj glanced at them and casually said to White Bear, "Brother Bear, let's go to the minefield." "No, Miss Pei, what if you're in danger? Then I will bear the consequences." Bei Yunj took out a Bluetooth earpiece from her sleeve. This operation made the eyelids of the few people in the monitoring room twitch. Old Master Lung was silent for a long time. "This is the first time I've seen someone smuggle private goods into the Great Eagle Forest. Sergeant Gao. Should we stop Miss Pei from going in? I think it's too dangerous." "No need." At this moment, Zhong Xinglin looked calmer than ever. No one can change her decision. But if one looked closely, they would find that Zhong Xinglin's hands were trembling. Hence, after Bei Yunj said that, White Bear really went in with Bei Yunj. This made Dai Dan and the others frown. "It can't be? She's still causing trouble for us at a time like this?" Dai Dan frowned and did not say anything. She just tensed up and listened to the situation on Team Red's side. When they heard another loud sound, their expressions changed. "Captain!" Dai Dan immediately took her laptop and ran inside. When the others saw this, they immediately followed. "Miss Pei, what are you doing?" White Bear heard the sound of typing on the keyboard and asked curiously, "Can your two teams hear each other's commands?" Bei Yunj adjusted her earpiece and asked. Chapter 676. White Bear paused for a moment and said, "No, I can't." Bei Yunj's eyes darkened. She lowered her eyes and typed even faster on the keyboard. She said calmly, "Wait a moment then." "Miss Pei, what are you doing?" White Bear stopped in his tracks and couldn't help but ask. At this moment, Dai Dan and the others also bumped into Bei Yunj and White Bear and overheard their conversation. "Miss Pei, if you don't have anything else to do, please stay away." Dai Dan gritted her teeth and couldn't help but finish her sentence in one breath. "Do you really want more of us to die?" As soon as she finished speaking, Bei Yunj didn't answer and continued typing on the keyboard. White Bear was too tall and Dai Dan couldn't see what Bei Yunj was doing. She couldn't help but sneer. "Does Miss Pei think that she has a solution? This isn't a game. I hope that even if Bei Yunj is being unreasonable, there's a limit to it." As soon as she finished speaking, before Dai Dan could continue, Bei Yunj suddenly stopped typing on the computer. Her lazy eyebrows moved and the corners of her lips curled up lazily. "Okay. What did you say?" Before Dai Dan could finish speaking, Bei Yunj interrupted her. Then she heard Bei Yunj's voice in her earpiece. The girl's eyes were deep. She sat on White Bear's shoulder and adjusted her Bluetooth earpiece with one hand. Her voice was casual and clear. The blue and red team members heard her voice. "I'm sorry to interrupt everyone. Next, I hope that everyone will listen to my instructions. Blue and red team members, take the injured and leave the minefield as quickly as possible." Bei Yunj looked at her watch and estimated the distance. 100 meters away. Suddenly, the two teams in front of them were facing enemies with high-end weapons. They heard a familiar voice in their earpiece. What the heck? What was going on? This voice, wasn't it the voice of that delicate girl? Could it be that she had snatched White Bear's walkie-talkie? "Monkey, is that you?" Suddenly another voice sounded. "Monkey." Monkey froze. "Qingshu, aren't you F*King part of Team Blue?" How the F*K was the blue team able to hear their conversation. While the two teams were still in shock, Bei Yunj's voice rang out again. Everyone, I didn't give you time to catch up. At this moment, only then did everyone react. The communication devices of their two teams were most likely modified by this seemingly useless young lady. But how did she have the ability to do that? Even Dai Dan, a top student in the computer science department of Yin University, couldn't do it. In the control room, how did Miss Pei do it? Sergeant Gao was shocked. How did Bei Yunj manage to control the communication devices of the two teams in such a short period of time? Subsequently, after Captain Gao asked, Old Master Lung and Zhong Shenglin looked at him with a "you're too ignorant" look. This is really unbelievable, okay? How was this technology? This was clearly science fiction. It was too amazing. Then why don't you see whose heir this is? Zhong Shenglin was smug. On the other hand, Old Master Lung felt an itch in his heart as he watched Bei Yunj skillfully command and analyze the situation. This little girl was indeed a good seedling to be a commander in the district. However, it was a pity. He could not win against Zhong Shenglin. Sergeant Gao, give the order. Let them listen to Yunj. Old Master Lung thought for a moment and made up his mind. Chapter 677. Captain Gao hesitated for a moment. But Miss Pei doesn't have any experience in commanding. This was not a drill, but an actual battle. Let her give it a try first. Old Master Lung pursed his lips. It's very likely that the other party has Meng Liang as well. Meng Liang was an outstanding geographer and was very good at computers. Unfortunately, Meng Liang had betrayed the country. Meng Liang? After Captain Gao reacted, he immediately gave everyone instructions. Team Red, Team Blue, listen to my orders. Everyone in Great Eagle Forest will listen to Miss Pei's arrangements. After saying that, Captain Gao hesitated for a moment. Miss Pei, please pay attention. The other party also has a high-tech criminal. It's Meng Liang. As soon as he finished speaking, Captain Gao originally thought that Bei Yunj would be nervous before this. However, he did not expect to hear Bei Yunj ask in the next moment, "Who is he?" Captain Gao. A scholar who is proficient in geography and computers. Meng Liang knows too much. We're already sending more people. We won't let him leave the country. Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched as she casually flexed her joints. Is that so? After Bei Yunj finished speaking, her hands did not stop typing. She changed the topic and ordered the others. Everyone report the casualties. Seeing this, Captain Gao turned around and asked in confusion, Miss Pei doesn't know Meng Liang? How was this possible? Wasn't Meng Liang a popular researcher in the country? Meng Liang had asked Guer's schedule a few times before, but he was rejected, Zhong Shenglin said. To be precise, she did not reject Meng Liang, but rejected everyone. Captain Gao. As expected, big shots had the temper of big shots no matter what field they were in. At this moment, after listening to everyone's report, Bei Yunj quickly came up with a plan. She said, the injured will avoid fighting. The dead will be sent away from the minefield as soon as possible. Hearing this, the others were puzzled by Bei Yunj's order. However, Captain Gao had given the command to Bei Yunj, so they could only listen to Bei Yunj. Xiang Hongtao gritted his teeth and listened to the disgusted voice in his earpiece. He had no choice but to do as Bei Yunj said. He wondered what Captain Gao was thinking. Everyone present was obviously more experienced than Bei Yunj, so why should they listen to Bei Yunj? Meanwhile, in the bushes in the hidden snow area near the minefield, the gang members frowned. Why is there no movement? Could it be that they retreated? Someone couldn't help but ask. Impossible. It's impossible for them to retreat. Meng Liang immediately retorted. His face darkened. He knew these people in his country better than anyone else. Retreating was worse than letting them die. Meng, aren't you overestimating these people? Someone couldn't help but laugh. Let me take a look. Meng Liang took a deep breath. This time, they had accidentally bumped into these people. It was also bad luck. But since he was given a chance to escape, he didn't want to be locked up again. He wanted to leave. I must leave this place. With this in mind, Meng Liang began searching the area's geographical location. At the same time, Bei Yunj saw the red dot jumping in the southwest area and her eyes curved. Her eyes were lazy and good-looking, exuding the spirit of a young man. In the surveillance room. Old Zhong, what's that red dot? Old Master Lung was confused. The others were also confused. Zhong Xinglin's eyelids twitched. She seems to be setting up spots in the area to capture signals. Chapter 678. Everyone was speechless. It sounded quite simple. But was this even done by a human? I'm not too sure either. I'm a serious computer student, so I don't know much about this. Zhong Xinglin's eyelids twitched. Everyone was speechless. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have thought that Bei Yunj would even know this. The signal points near the Great Eagle Forest were very weak. They almost had to rely on the official signals of the warring party to survey the terrain. Those who did not know would think that Bei Yunj was in the command room in the district. At this moment, seeing that the other party was retrieving the terrain, Bei Yunj was not in a hurry. Instead, she scanned the terrain and began to make changes. After all this was done, Bei Yunj suddenly smiled. South of the minefield, report the number of people. Captain. Chen Hu almost blurted out Captain, but when he regained his senses he immediately said, Miss Pei, 18 people. 18 people? That's enough. Bei Yunj's eyes were filled with a cold glint as the corners of her lips curled up slightly. 18 people south of the minefield, pay attention. Walk back to the hidden area. Get ready to shoot from afar, and throw the grenades. As soon as she finished speaking, everyone could not react in time. What did Bei Yunj mean by giving this order? She did not know where the enemy was, so why did she have to command them like this? Xiang Hongtao gritted his teeth and hid behind the grass. His eyes were filled with sarcasm and uncontrollable anger. Bei Yunj, you'd better have some ability. At this moment, Daidan could not help but look at Bei Yunj. She frowned and said calmly, Miss Pei, that's 18 lives. That will be within my consideration. Miss Dai's mission is to take care of yourself. Bei Yunj looked up slightly and glanced at her before she said carelessly. Her lazy gaze was a little intimidating. It was very difficult to find something like patience in Bei Yunj. In the monitoring room, Zhong Xinglin looked at Old Master Lung, who wanted to say something but hesitated. He answered the question in their hearts expressionlessly. If nothing goes wrong, this guy changed the information and gave the other party a fake map. Therefore Bei Yunj had already planned this. He wanted those people to think that he had an accurate map, and could guess the exact location of the people in the war zone. But who would have thought? Yet there were still people who could effortlessly tamper with the map. This way, Meng Liang would definitely choose the best spot to attack based on the map Bei Yunj had given him. But what they didn't expect was that the other party had long been waiting to wipe them out. The corner of Old Master Lung's mouth twitched. Do you all have so many tricks up your sleeves? He didn't know how to do that either, all right? Zhong Xinglin rolled his eyes. He could not be bothered to argue with Old Master Lung and said, By the way, you'd better check the terrain data in the area and see if you need to re-record. Has it been changed? Old Lung's loud voice gave Zhong Xinglin a fright. Are you blind? Didn't I change it in front of you? Zhong Xinglin snapped angrily. Old Master Lung. This group of researchers was indeed black-hearted. Old Master Lung's eyelids twitched at the thought of Bei Yunj's high-end operations. Fortunately, the person who knew these things was Bei Yunj. If it were anyone else, the consequences would be unimaginable. A few minutes later, as expected, Meng Liang's brows relaxed. According to the topographic map, they are very likely to be in the north. Everyone, go around the minefield and head south. The chances of winning with a surprise attack like this will be higher. Hearing Meng Liang's words, the others did not doubt him. After all, they were able to successfully kill the two of them just now because Meng Liang's judgment was correct. That minefield seems to have a lower chance of hiding lightning. We have detectors, so why go through so much trouble? The blonde man said impatiently. But if there's an ambush, your danger in the minefield will be greatly increased. Meng Liang frowned. These people's impression of Country A was still in the past. However, they did not know that Country A could not be underestimated now. What kind of ambush can they think of? Ricky, follow me and go straight to the minefield. Use the fastest speed to get rid of these weaklings. With that said, that person ignored Meng Liang's suggestion and walked straight to the minefield. This scene made Meng Liang feel inexplicably flustered. However, thinking about it, according to the topographic map, there were no hidden areas in the South District. Those people were most likely hiding in the North District. He did not need to panic. Lu Da's actions were at most a little dangerous, but nothing would happen. Thinking of this, Meng Liang heaved a sigh of relief and sat in the car, waiting for Lu Da and the rest. A few minutes later, the members of Team Blue and Team Red didn't expect to see their target approaching. The long-range shooter could not help but say, F***CK. Is Miss Pei a fortune teller? Wasn't this 2F***king accurate? She was really here. Everyone pay attention to the target. After Chun Hu came back to his senses, he immediately took control of the front field. Not long after, Lu Da, Ricky, and the rest finally realized that something was wrong. Captain, didn't you say that this is the stone forest? Why are there so many bushes? Ricky asked instinctively. When Lu Da heard this, his strong sixth sense made him feel a sense of danger. He had been ambushed. Oh no, everyone retreat. The moment Lu Da gave the order, there was a sudden thud and a teammate fell. This made them panic. What was going on? Why was this happening? Hurry up and go back. Hide behind the forest. Lu Da dodged the shot and was agile. Soon he hid in a safe area. However, seeing that 3 of his brothers had died this time, he could not help but grit his teeth, his eyes filled with anger. Why was there an ambush from Country A in the south? As Lu Da thought about it, he started shooting not far away. However, what he did not expect was, the next moment he saw a grenade being thrown in front of him. F***CK. Lu Da's expression was ugly and he could not help but curse. After so many years, his battle results could be considered brilliant. He originally thought that it was more than enough to deal with these people from Country A. However, he did not expect such an accident to happen. Why was there an ambush from Country A in the south? As Lu Da thought about it, he started shooting not far away. However, what he did not expect was, the next moment he saw a grenade being thrown in front of him. F***CK. Lu Da's expression was ugly and he could not help but curse. After so many years, his battle results could be considered brilliant. He originally thought that it was more than enough to deal with these people from Country A. However, he did not expect such an accident to happen. Why was there an ambush from Country A in the south? As Lu Da thought about it, he started shooting not far away. However, what he did not expect was, Chapter 679. She did not expect things to go according to Bai Yunja's plan. Dai Dan clenched her fists and pursed her lips. On the other side, Bai Yunj looked at the screen and ignored everyone. No emotions could be seen in his quiet and beautiful eyes. In the monitoring room. Good job. Old Master Lung could not help but be excited and happy. It was too beautiful. These people should be taught a lesson. Since they had already violated their borders, it was clearly a provocation to them. Even Captain Gao's brows relaxed. He was a little curious about Bai Yunj. Why did he seem to know so much about the district? Old Zhong, if we have nothing to do in the future, let Gur come here often. Zhong Shenglin pushed Old Master Lung away. Go go go. My Gur is a treasure. How can she often come to your stinky men's place? At this moment, Meng Liang, who received the call, froze. Old Master Lung was speechless. Hearing this, Meng Liang's mind was in a mess. How was that possible? What did you say? Lu Da said, your map is fake. Ricky is injured. Stone Forest? Where did Stone Forest come from? Think of a way. If we don't get rid of those people, we won't be able to go back. Lu Da was also injured. When he was treating his wound, he could not help but gasp. How could this be? This could not be fake. He had clearly gotten it from the district. Meng Liang was sweating profusely. Meng Liang gritted his teeth and could only bite the bullet and turn on his laptop. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not enter anyone's device. White Bear heard the sound of typing and did not dare to disturb Bai Yunj. 10 minutes later. Soon. Bai Yunj estimated the time and locked onto the communication message. In the SUV on the other end. Suddenly Meng Liang heard a voice ring twice. Bai Yunj adjusted his earpiece. Meng Liang was stunned for a moment. His scalp went numb and his voice trembled. Who are you? How was it possible for someone to infiltrate another person's communication device without anyone noticing? Before he could react, another clear and pleasant voice sounded. Mr. Meng, how are you? The next moment, her voice became much colder, and there was a hint of a smile in her voice. But Mr. Meng, do you know the crime of killing a military officer of our country? Meng Liang could roughly tell that she was a very young lady. After calming himself down, he laughed again. I'm sorry for using such an impolite way to talk to you. Bai Yunj's voice was lazy, and there was no hint of apology in it. Bai Yunj licked her lips and chuckled. As for the other team members who heard the conversation between Bai Yunj and Meng Liang, they were a little afraid that Bai Yunj would be brainwashed. Little girl, you must be very young, right? I don't know how you interfered with my communication device. But you have to understand that in this world, people die for wealth and birds die for food. I'm only doing this out of humanity. After all, Bai Yunj was still young and had not experienced much bloodshed. How about this? I'll make a deal with you. Let me go. I won't divulge any secrets. Oh, by the way, I still have a research project that I'm willing to give to you. Meng Liang was full of confidence. Many people outside are fighting for this research project. Little girl, don't worry. As long as you have this project, your boss won't blame you. What if I'm not willing? Bai Yunj enunciated each word slowly. Chapter 680. Hearing this, Meng Liang's expression darkened. Not long after, he laughed. Through the earpiece, everyone could hear the sinister and cold tone in his voice. Young lady, you're still young. Do you have to chase after me so relentlessly and gamble your life? Bai Yunj did not stop typing. She chuckled again, her clear voice pleasant to the ear. She smiled casually. I never gamble with my life. On the other hand, Mr. Meng, you can think of your last words first. These words. Meng Liang's face darkened. He did not know why this young lady was so arrogant. Fortunately, he still had a backup plan. A strange glint flashed across Meng Liang's eyes. He took the opportunity to send out the things he had prepared on the way. Seeing that the information was being transmitted, Meng Liang's brows relaxed and he laughed maniacally. Young lady, you're still too inexperienced. He had taken the opportunity to say so much to her just now because he wanted Bai Yunj to lower her guard and stall for time. Meng Liang was extremely excited when he saw that the information was about to be transmitted. He immediately drove the SUV in the direction Lu De had mentioned. However, Bai Yunj looked down and saw the new number transmission. Her lips curled up, and she sent it back to the district. In the monitoring room, Zhong Xinglin's eyes flashed. When he saw the message on the computer, he immediately went forward to receive it. This made Old Master Lung focus and forget to ask him. After opening the document, Zhong Xinglin said, Old Master Lung, come and see what Gu sent just now. Old Master Lung quickly went forward to size it up. However, when he saw the information inside, his expression changed. His face was ashen as he gritted his teeth. This son of a B*TC should be shot. What's wrong? Why are you so angry? It was rare for Zhong Xinglin to see Old Master Lung so angry. Love House, this is the address of our country's underground nuclear engineering laboratory. Old Master Lung clenched his fists and took a deep breath. Zhong Xinglin's expression changed. Of course, he knew how important this address was to their country. Yu Guang seemed to have participated in this laboratory in the past. He had disappeared from the public eye for almost 10 years. After he came out, he was more than 10 years older than his peers, and his body was no longer as before. She had just been discharged from the hospital half a year ago. Luckily, Gur intercepted it. Zhong Xinglin heaved a sigh of relief. Hearing this, Old Master Lung closed his eyes and nodded. If this thing were to spread out, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, for Meng Liang, a geographer, to be able to obtain such a thing, It also meant that there were people among them who were unclean. 10 minutes later, Meng Liang successfully received Ruda, Ricky, and company. But in the blink of an eye, he realized that the data transfer had failed. When he clicked on it to take a look, the data was severely damaged. How was this possible? Meng Liang's expression changed as he immediately picked up his earpiece. His eyes under his glasses were filled with anger. Is it you? Did you do it? Bei Yunj was the only one who could hear their conversation. Which one are you talking about? Bei Yunj asked casually. Are you the one who cut off my signal? Who the hell are you? Meng Liang could no longer hold it in. He was so angry that his heart hurt. How could he have encountered such a thing? A voice that clearly sounded like a young lady had actually destroyed all of his plans. Chapter 681. Bei Yunj said calmly. I didn't intercept your signal. The next moment, without waiting for Meng Liang to retort, she said gently, I'm just trying to see if I can monopolize this signal area. However, it was obvious. From Meng Liang's experience, it was possible. When Meng Liang heard Bei Yunj's words, his scalp went numb. This person's computer skills were definitely not simple. Apart from the few technical big shots at the top, almost no one could do this. Meng Liang's blood surged to his throat. What exactly are you trying to do? Bei Yunj's signal could not be sent out. The signal given to him from the outside could not be sent in. He was completely trapped. Initially, Meng Liang was full of confidence and felt that he could deal with this group of people. But who knew that such a link would appear? Half an hour. The girl's unhurried voice entered his ears word by word clearly, and the call was hung up. Meng Liang wanted to continue speaking, but he could no longer contact her. His face was pale and his body trembled slightly. For the first time, he was completely passive. What's wrong? Are there people negotiating with you? Did they make any conditions? Lu De looked at Meng Liang's expression and thought that the other party had made some difficult conditions for them to surrender. Who knew? Meng Liang gritted his teeth and turned to look at Lu De. She said half an hour. This meant, obviously, it was not a simple meaning. Arrogant. Who does she think she is? How dare she be so arrogant? Half an hour? Lu De sneered and pressed down on his seat. He took out the box and opened it. Inside was a brand new black wooden warehouse. They won't let us go? Then they'll have to go to hell. Lu Da's face was fierce. Hearing this, Meng Liang moved his lips, but he didn't say a word. He was about to turn on the computer when he realized that the computer was in an unstable blue screen. First Chinese network. A few seconds later, he realized what was going on. It was that person again. Meng Liang gritted his teeth and threw the computer out. What's wrong with you? Lu De turned to look at him. Be careful, they might have a computer expert. Meng Liang clenched his fists. His tone was filled with reluctance and fear. He's a real computer expert. Bei Yunj threw the laptop to Daidan. Topographic map. Daidan subconsciously hugged it tightly. When she opened it, her heart trembled violently. This is... White Bear came over and squatted down to take a look. Isn't this a map of the headquarters? Miss Pei, where did you come from? White Bear asked curiously. Someone gave it to me. Bei Yunj didn't blush at all. In the control room. Captain Gao. Old Master Lung. We don't even know what nonsense you're spouting. Then these red dots. Daidan asked subconsciously. Bei Yunj glanced around and noticed that one of the red dots was missing. She could roughly guess what had happened. She curled her lips lazily. People these days have quite a temper. He even smashed his computer. With that said, Bei Yunj changed the topic. It's the other party's equipment positioning, but there's no guarantee that they haven't split into two teams. However, judging from their actions just now, there aren't many of them. There are about 15 of them. Daidan clenched her fists. White Bear could still foolishly believe that Bei Yunj was given the map by someone else. But how could she not see it? Chapter 682. Especially this location. It was no longer something a normal computer student could do. Dai Dan looked at Bei Yunj with a complicated expression. She took a deep breath and asked, then, Miss Pei, where are you going? I want White Bear to accompany me to get some food, Bei Yunj said slowly. I don't really like dry food. Dai Dan pursed her lips. Miss Pei, this area is still very dangerous. Isn't it more dangerous to follow you? Bei Yunj was still unhurried and matter-of-factly. I have to be responsible for my own safety. Everyone. That made sense. Bei Yunj said. I'm not a professional, so I won't trouble you. Everyone. You're too humble. Just now, they had minded this young lady commanding them. Now they were very unwilling to let Bei Yunj leave. The few people behind could only watch as Bei Yunj left. In the monitoring room, Old Master Lung and the others did not have the time to look at Bei Yunj. They instinctively felt that nothing would happen to this guy. Instead, they focused on the red and blue team's actions. It had to be said that with Bei Yunj's topographic map and the enemy's location, the red and blue team gradually gained the upper hand. But not long after, Meng Liang and the others also realized that they seemed to know their whereabouts like the back of their hand. Along the way, Lu Da and the others were injured and in a sorry state. They cursed uncontrollably. I got it. Meng Liang reacted instantly and felt a chill run down his spine. Quick. Throw the equipment into the lake. What? Why? Everyone asked. That person might have located our location. Quick, we're about to lose it. Meng Liang couldn't even speak clearly. He only felt that the girl's strength was too shocking. How could there be someone with such a terrifying technical ability? How is this possible? Meng Liang, have you gone crazy? With the current computer technology, how is it possible? Do you want to die? Meng Liang roared. He knew that there were some people with powerful computer skills who were unwilling to appear in the public, nor were they willing to be used by any forces. Fortunately, such people usually wouldn't destroy social harmony. This also made people underestimate computer experts. But at this moment, Meng Liang had seen these operations the entire day and felt that he was also surprised. He knew that some hidden experts were very powerful. But this girl, if it was exposed to any faction, it would be fought over. Dai Dan's expression changed. What's going on? All the red dots have disappeared? Should we contact Miss Pei? Someone asked at once. When Dai Dan heard this, she felt inexplicably uncomfortable. She gritted her teeth. No need. Subsequently, Dai Dan told Captain Fatty what she had roughly guessed. This was the safe zone. Brother Xiong, can you do it? Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched when she saw that the white bear couldn't even hit a hair after so many hits. Miss Pei, you shouldn't humiliate a man like this. White Bear was very serious. Bei Yunj was speechless. She took a deep breath and went forward to take the white bear's wooden box. However, the white bear hugged the wooden box tightly. Bei Yunj was confused. Give it to me. White Bear's face turned red. The tall man started to feel awkward in front of Bei Yunj. Why are you hitting the little hare? Let's go and see something else. I just want to eat the little hare. Bei Yunj's lips twitched and she started to snatch it again. Chapter 683. She looked like she couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with White Bear. But the next moment, Bei Yunj had just grabbed the weapon when the white bear blocked Bei Yunj's way with his body. Bei Yunj tried to calm herself down. Let's make a deal? What exactly do you want? Look at that rabbit. It seems quite big, White Bear said. Bei Yunj? Question mark. White Bear still wanted to use its lack of language to influence Bei Yunj, and try to make Bei Yunj regain her conscience. What if it's Daddy Rabbit? There might still be babies and Mommy Rabbit waiting for it at home. Looking at Bei Yunj's silence, White Bear felt that he was about to succeed. If we kill it, won't we destroy someone else's happy family? Bei Yunj couldn't help but look up at him. The urge to press White Bear's head into the ground was almost uncontrollable. The next moment, Bei Yunj smiled slightly. Why don't you think that Daddy Rabbit is a scumbag who cheated on you? There must be an effect for every cause, and its retribution is me. White Bear. A few minutes later, Bei Yunj looked at White Bear sitting on the ground with a little rabbit in his arms and smiled honestly. How did this person who didn't kill enter the war zone? Did he not train to eat in the wild? Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched. In the end, he squatted down slowly and poked the little rabbit's head with his index finger. He smiled lazily and asked, "Aren't you going to send it home? A little rabbit can't be a scumbag." White Bear seemed to really like this cute little animal. He hugged it for a long time reluctantly. Finally, after White Bear let go of the rabbit, the two of them sat down to eat the dry food. Bei Yunj hadn't eaten dry food for a long time. He only ate a little and gave up eating. "You didn't eat these when you were training?" Bei Yunj drank some water and asked. "Love me. I've eaten them before, but they were all live snakes and scorpions. After all, we don't have a choice if we encounter an unexpected situation," White Bear said sincerely. Bei Yunj nodded and rested her chin on her hand as she looked at the time. More than 20 minutes had passed. Suddenly, White Bear received the news in his headset. White Bear, please answer if you hear me." "Got it. What happened?" White Bear asked immediately. "Is Miss Pei here? The other party seems to know about it. We have equipment on our side." White Bear immediately relayed the message to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj's eyes twitched. "It's been so long. Isn't it normal to know?" "White Bear. Then what should we do now?" "Don't forget your natural advantage when you lure people into the minefield." White Bear thought for a while before he understood what Bei Yunj meant. "All right. Soon." Luda, who had finally turned the tables, couldn't help but laugh. He deliberately used the loudspeaker of the SUV and spoke in the language of country A. "A great country? It's just a so-so. Where are they?" "Didn't I ask you to look for Miss Pei?" Fatty gritted his teeth and asked. "Miss Pei asked us to lure people into the minefield." Hearing this, Fatty was stunned. Minefield? At this moment, Chen-Hu reacted faster than Fatty. Brothers, south of the minefield. The south of the minefield was the minefield they had set up. Team Blue and Team Red, who scored full marks in the previous minefield assessment. Fatty also had an epiphany and reacted. Luda and the others sensed an unusual aura. Chapter 684. This group of people isn't that powerful. Luda's team members, who had the upper hand again, obviously did not take their opponents seriously. Don't underestimate the enemy. However, Luda was still a little traumatized. How did that person do it and locate all of their members? If they were able to master this kind of technology, Luda could not suppress the greed in his eyes, but his rationality reminded him. That person was not to be trifled with, and he probably would not join his faction easily. At the same time, Chen-Hu and the others had already started to lure the bait. "Lin Shui, you must be careful. I believe in your speed." The weather gradually turned cold, but the few people who were lying in ambush were sweating profusely. They could only force themselves to focus. "Captain, don't worry. I will definitely complete the mission." Lin Shui swallowed his saliva, gritted his teeth, and quickly passed through the forest. At the same time, the sound of a wooden gun quickly rang out, shocking everyone. "Lin Shui!" Chen-Hu shouted. Lin Shui's body was agile, and he quickly dodged the bullet. However, his clothes were torn at his knees. Zhong Shenglin, who was watching the scene, could not help but be shocked. It was too difficult to protect this land. Aren't we letting these bastards risk their lives? It was Zhong Shenglin's first time seeing such a scene. Old Master Lung smiled at him. "Otherwise, do you think you can be so safe sitting in the Computing Institute?" Zhong Shenglin was speechless. Lin Shui has always been a very capable newcomer in our district. Nothing must happen to him. Captain Gao could not help but clench his fists and mutter. A few minutes later, Luda's teammates could not help but curse. F*CK, is he provoking us? Bashan Academy, he had been jumping around in front of them. The most infuriating thing was that they could not hit him. He had been jumping around all this time. Luda's expression darkened. "Moss, go and change the wooden gun." Hearing that, Moss immediately understood. He immediately went to the back and took out the box. When he opened it, it was a wooden gun. The corners of Moss's mouth curled into a strange sneer, with a hint of viciousness. Are you jumping around blindly? I'll send you to hell. At the same time, Lin Shui was accidentally hit in the thigh and his speed gradually decreased. On Dai Dan's side, she was also looking for the enemy's approximate location and getting people to sneak in. Lin Shui, quickly find a place to hide. Chunhu said. Dai Dan's voice suddenly rang out. No. If Lin Shui is hiding, they will discover our movements. When Chunhu's team members heard this, they were enraged. What the F***ck do you mean? If you lose, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Dai Dan pursed her lips, but her hand was still looking for the location. In the control room. What's wrong with you girls? Zhong Shenglin asked. At this time, it's normal for her to do this in order to be foolproof. Old Master Lung understood Dai Dan's cold-blooded actions very well, but Zhong Shenglin frowned. But she didn't find the location at all. How can you be so sure that nothing will go wrong? Zhong Shenglin was puzzled. Old Master Lung and Captain Gao were stunned when they heard that. What did you say? They were laymen. When they saw the few dots on the computer, they thought that Dai Dan had found the exact location. She ordered it herself. Are you kidding me? All the internet equipment is gone. How can she find the location? Zhong Shenglin frowned. Chapter 685. What's wrong with this female comrade? Old Master Lung was about to explode. This was the first time he had seen such an impulsive person. Captain Gao pursed his lips and could not help but frown. She wants to win. However, Dai Dan was too confident. She thought she could make the right bet. But now, she was gambling with someone else's life. And it was her teammate's life. You want to win like this? Old Master Lung's expression was ugly. I'll give the order. At this moment, just as Captain Gao finished speaking, another person suddenly appeared on camera. He was holding a wooden gun. Captain Gao subconsciously blurted out, Lin Shui, be careful. Lin Shui turned his head and noticed Moss. Go to hell. Moss laughed as he lifted the wooden gun. Soon bullets shot out like a storm. Lin Shui immediately hid behind a tree. But the bullets were too old, so he was inevitably hit by 2 bullets. They heard Lin Shui's painful groan. The people from both teams were in their throats. Lin Shui. Chunhu subconsciously shouted and immediately said, Lin Shui, leave quickly. The tree will fall. However, at this moment, Lin Shui's leg was injured and he could not move at all. He could not avoid the bullets. Lin Shui gritted his teeth and glanced at the grass beside him. He noticed the low slope behind him. He made up his mind and rushed to the right. After bending his knees, his entire body quickly rolled down the low slope. Even Old Master Lung became nervous at this scene. Moss's expression darkened when he saw that the person had actually dodged while he was not paying attention. He changed the handle of the wooden gun and gradually walked over. So there's a low slope. Moss sneered. Very good, this will be your burial ground. With that said, Moss walked towards the low slope. When Lin Shui also picked up the wooden gun and knew that he only had 1 bullet left, he took a deep breath. Lin Shui gritted his teeth and focused on the slope. At this moment, however, Moss wanted to catch Lin Shui off guard. He walked from the side of the low slope and saw the back of Lin Shui's head. His eyes were dark as he sneered silently. The wooden gun silently met Lin Shui's head. Lin Shui, be careful. Captain Gao subconsciously shouted. The people in the monitoring room were also on tenterhooks. But before Lin Shui could react, it was already too late. Lin Shui couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Just as he turned his head, he heard the sound of a wooden barn. He quickly closed his eyes. But after 2 or 3 seconds, he didn't feel any pain. What's going on? Lin Shui subconsciously turned his head and saw Bei Yunj not far away. One of her beautiful eyes was closed, and her finger was still on the trigger. No one noticed that the evil redness in the depths of the girl's eyes was constantly moving. Miss Pei. Lin Shui's voice caused everyone to be stunned. Miss Pei saved Lin Shui. The evil redness in the girl's eyes gradually disappeared. Bei Yunj's eyes flickered. He quickly turned around and pulled the trigger at the foreign man who had suddenly stood up on the mountaintop in the distance. He could only see that the person not far away had fallen to the ground. This move shocked White Bear greatly. "Miss Pei, what are you doing?" Bei Yunj threw the weapon back to White Bear. "I didn't have time to tell you just now. White Bear, so you did it yourself." Originally, White Bear thought that Bei Yunj needed his protection, but now he couldn't tell who he was protecting. Chapter 686. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, the White Bear obediently carried him up. Lin Shui, who was carried up. "Wait, let's bandage it first." Bei Yunj saw the blood on Lin Shui's leg and subconsciously took a step back. Lin Shui. Could his disdain be any more obvious? After Bei Yunj sensed Lin Shui's complicated gaze, he added, "I'm a little dizzy from seeing blood." Lin Shui. "That's not what the wooden warehouse in your hand said just now." In the monitoring room, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Bei Yunj had arrived in time just now. If Bei Yunj had not come at that time, Lin Shui would have lost his life. "Miss Pei, why does she know how to use a wooden warehouse?" Captain Gao now felt that Bei Yunj was really mysterious. The first time they met, she looked like a rich and powerful young lady. But in the end, this person kept breaking everyone's understanding. Not only was she the rumored scientific researcher, but she also knew how to use a wooden warehouse. Where did such a godlike person come from? Old Master Lung looked at the girl on the screen and felt his heart ache. If it weren't for the fact that Zhong Shenglin had gone crazy searching for an heir for so many years, he would definitely snatch her away from him. This guy was really too good of a seedling. Zhong Shenglin was really lucky. Only Cui Hengchuan kept taking notes. There was a hint of seriousness in his gentle eyes. "Dr. Cui, what did you find?" Zhong Shenglin turned around and asked curiously. "Nothing." Cui Hengchuan smiled. When Zhong Shenglin nodded and did not pay any more attention, he was deep in thought. The emotions that appeared in Bei Yunj's eyes just now appeared in his mind. It was a coldness that had never appeared before, and some kind of emotion that had been stimulated. However, not long after, Bei Yunj controlled it very well. A hint of interest flashed across Cui Hengchuan's eyes. He could not help but take out a photo of Bei Yunj. Not long after, he did not put it back in the medical record. Instead, he put it in the pocket of his white coat. Meanwhile, the few people who were supposed to infiltrate were almost all injured. When Dai Dan heard this news, her expression changed. How is that possible? She couldn't have analyzed it wrongly. Tiger Chun and Fatty both knew what was going on, but on the field, no one wanted to pursue the matter. "Dai Dan, we'll settle this when we get back." After Chun Hu finished speaking, he asked, "Miss Pei, are you there?" A clear and pleasant voice was like a calming pill, making people feel at ease. "Yes, it's here. Soon." Chun Hu analyzed the current situation to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj didn't have a computer, so he could only recall the topographic map. "The bushes over there are too easily exposed. They won't hide there. Let's see if there's a river with more floating grass." Bei Yunj remembered that there was such a terrain in that area. Not long after, the people who were still surveying exclaimed in surprise, There's such a river. Miss Pei, what happened next?" "What happened next?" Bei Yunj's lips curled up as she said slowly, "Throw the grenade in and hide further away." Everyone. They didn't know why. Sometimes, when they were facing Miss Pei, their scalps would go numb. When she heard Bei Yunj's voice, Dai Dan pursed her lips. Her thoughts were in a mess. She kept thinking about her wrong judgment. She was 90% confident about this matter. But now that she had failed, she might be punished. Chapter 687. On the other side, a few team members followed Bei Yunj's instructions and threw a grenade into the river. Not long after, a loud explosion caused a huge wave. The fire spread, and even the driftwood turned red for a moment. Soon, they stuck their heads out and saw that the green river had turned blood red. Their scalps went numb. Fortunately, they did not cross the river just now. Otherwise, they would not have known that there was someone hiding in the water. Reporting, Miss Pei is telling the truth. There's someone inside. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. At the same time, this made Diane's heart tighten. She also had a question that troubled her. And this question happened to be asked by someone else first. How did Miss Pei know that there was someone in the river? Bai Yunj was not at the scene. Bai Yunj adjusted his earphones and lowered their volume. I guessed it according to the topographic map just now. Hearing this, White Bear and Lin Shui could not help but look at Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj did not have a computer. It was obvious that he had just memorized the topographic map. This brain capacity. Everyone's scalps went numb. When Diane heard this, her heart ached even more. She felt like she had been slapped in the face. She could not even compare to an unprofessional girl. Along the way, Bai Yunj had been listening to Chen Hu and Fatty's arrangements most of the time. He was calm and casual. He would only give them some advice occasionally. Lu Da's face was ashen. What's going on here? Lu Da, is it the girl who saved that person just now? The injured team member asked. Lu Da could not help but frown when he heard this. How was this possible? At this moment, Meng Liang was more excited than anyone else. It's her. It must be her. You know her? Didn't you say that that person is a computer expert? Lu Da asked. But how could a real battlefield only test computer skills? If that was the case, then there was no need for them. Meng Liang immediately shook his head. Lu Da, that person is not simple. Don't underestimate her. Lu Da gritted his teeth. Only then did he realize how peaceful his first 20 years as a mercenary had been. But now he was being completely suppressed by a little girl. I understand. Lu Da gritted his teeth and his gaze darkened. This time, he had to take it seriously. Lu Da opened his palm and glanced at his a chip. His expression turned cold as he swallowed the item. Lu Da, Meng Liang did not have the time to say anything. If I die, they must come and take my body. Lu Da instructed his subordinates. His subordinate was not convinced. It's just a woman. Lu Da, don't be too negative. That's right, that hateful woman. I must kill her. Lu Da also had a ferocious expression. He had actually forced him to this extent. Indeed, he deserved to die. Miss Pei, you're really a genius. You're too amazing. Someone couldn't help but praise. Bai Yunj said unhurriedly. The other party has been fooled for so long. He'll be serious. Does Miss Pei have any ideas? Someone immediately asked. It was as if Bai Yunj could solve all problems. Yes. Bai Yunj responded and said slowly. Everyone, do your best. Protect me well. Everyone was speechless. Bai Yunj glanced at his watch and remained calm. He estimated that there were still 20 minutes. What was unexpected was that Chen Hu actually managed to capture Meng Liang with his men. Meng Liang struggled with all his might. Let go of me. I'm no longer a household register here. You have no right to touch me. Chapter 688. As he struggled, Meng Liang saw an excessively beautiful girl beside him. Are you the person who called me just now? Who are you? Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows and glanced at the middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s, but she had no intention of paying attention to him. She glanced at her watch and smiled lazily. 14 minutes. Meng Liang immediately realized that Bai Yunj had said 1 hour. Then he couldn't help but laugh crazily. Do you think you've won? Let me tell you, you've lost. Seeing this, the others couldn't help but frown. They felt that Meng Liang was implying something. Bai Yunj's eyes flashed and she quickly thought of something. Meng Liang's smile gradually disappeared, and he looked at her warily. What are you trying to say? Bai Yunj walked around him and sized up the off-road vehicle. She asked intentionally or unintentionally, your off-road vehicle doesn't seem to have much oil. Meng Liang immediately panicked when he was asked this, but he pretended to be calm. You've already planned this route in the Great Eagle Forest, right? Bai Yunj's voice sounded slowly. Hearing this, no idiot would blatantly fly at high altitudes near the war zone. Bai Yunj was wearing black leather gloves and playing with the bristlegrass in her hand slowly. Her eyes were impudent and arrogant. Isn't that right, Mr. Meng? Don't waste your time. I won't reveal it. Team Tiger, go to the nearby river zone and search for people. Meng Liang's heart skipped a beat when he heard Bei Yunji's voice. Fear gradually spread. This girl who looked young was really too scary. Search in the south of the river zone. There's a cliff in the north. After Bei Yunji finished speaking, Fatty hesitated for a moment and asked tentatively, Miss Pei, do you remember all the topographic maps? Bei Yunji changed the topic and suddenly looked at Meng Liang. Her beautiful and bright eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. You. Meng Liang felt inexplicably guilty. You're too arrogant. In the control room. Does this brain really exist? Old Master Lung asked a question that Si Qingyan asked every day. This area isn't too big. Bei Yunji said. Everyone. This hopeless academic flunky. It was just 2 foreign names, but they had actually become so wordy. Zhong Shenglin glanced at Old Master Lung. How else do you think she got both the Farisk and Busaka nominations? Alright. Stop arguing. It gives me a headache. Old Master Lung immediately said. Zhong Shenglin. Bei Yunji shouted. White Bear. When White Bear heard the coldness in Bei Yunji's tone, he quickly stepped forward and punched Meng Liang in the stomach. It made Meng Liang's face contort. After seeing a bug like Bei Yunji with his own eyes, Meng Liang was a little devastated. Let me go. Let me go. I'm telling you, there's no way you can win. Before Meng Liang could finish speaking, this action shocked everyone. They all looked at White Bear in confusion. When did he have such a good relationship with Miss Pei? Bei Yunji walked up to him and patted his face gently with a gentle smile. Her eyes were casual and arrogant. This isn't something you should worry about, understand? Miss Pei, do you want to come with us? Fatty thought for a moment and asked. Chapter 689. Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows and glanced at White Bear, but she agreed. That's great. White Bear was the happiest. He wanted to participate in this mission as well. However, he had to stay away from the danger zone to protect Bei Yunji. Let's drive. Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows when she saw the broken window of the Jeep. Miss Pei, do you know how to drive? Yes. After Bei Yunji said that, White Bear became excited again. He couldn't hide his joy. That's great. However, a few minutes later, another thing suddenly occurred to them. Miss Pei, how old are you this year? I'm almost 20. Bei Yunji sat in the driver's seat and answered. Do you have a driver's license? Bei Yunji paused and glanced at Chen Hu. She smiled and said, No. The next moment, before anyone could react, Bei Yunji stepped on the accelerator and drove to the maximum speed. Everyone. Soon. They were near the river zone. Everyone took a deep breath. If not for their good physical fitness, they would have been killed by Bei Yunji's driving skills. They couldn't let Bei Yunji drive next time. This was their first thought. However, Bei Yunji glanced at the marks on the ground, and her sharp eyes saw some inconspicuous bloodstains. It's right in front. Bei Yunji said in an orderly manner. Hearing this, everyone scanned their surroundings and quickly headed towards the river zone. Over there. White Bear said immediately. Parkway. Everyone turned to look at the yacht not far away. However, in the next second, Bei Yunji's eyes moved and she quickly pulled White Bear back. Be careful of the bullets. Fortunately, Bei Yunji's warning was fast enough. Everyone avoided the bullets. In the blink of an eye, the next round of battle began again. However, the gradually increasing distance, the yacht's constantly changing route, and the cunning opponent made him feel somewhat powerless. Unable to accurately hit the enemy, Bei Yunji thought for a moment, then adjusted his Bluetooth, and his voice was clearly heard by everyone. Do you know where the yacht's gasoline is stored? Break through the iron sheet and the storage box. Hearing this, everyone quickly changed their target, which made the few people on the yacht feel a little strange. Why were these people getting more and more off target? But soon they reacted. They're attacking our fuel tanks. Lu Da and the others' faces changed. At this moment, when Bei Yunji saw that there was a gas leak, she asked White Bear. Do you have tracers? White Bear braced himself. No. Bei Yunji. What about the incendiary bombs? I do. White Bear quickly loaded the incendiary bomb into the gun. What are you going to do with it? Bai Yunj looked at the people on the yacht and already knew their intentions. She did not have time to explain to White Bear. She took the wooden gun from White Bear, closed her left eye gently, and aimed at the spot where the oil was leaking. Her slender finger pressed the trigger. There was a loud bang. A flash of fire passed through and ignited the gasoline on the surface of the sea. Then the entire simple yacht burst into flames. In an instant, the entire place was ablaze. Everyone present was shocked. They subconsciously looked at the girl who had just opened the gun. Was she really not a F*King trained person? Go and catch them. Don't let them escape. Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows. Lu Da and the others cursed along the way, saying that these people were playing dirty tricks. Chapter 690. Lu Da, there's someone there. Hearing this, Lu Da immediately raised the wooden gun and prepared to kill that person. But the next moment, a strange light flashed across his eyes and he put down his weapon. Go and capture him. After saying that, soon, someone pushed a young boy who was only wearing pants over. Who are you? Lu Da asked in the local language that wasn't very standard. The boy probably didn't expect to meet a few people with wooden guns. His expression didn't look good and he didn't say anything. Speak. Another team member next to him immediately pointed a dagger at his throat. Don't touch him. Lu Da said in a deep voice. Lu Da, you. That person wanted to say something but hesitated. Lu Da glanced at him indifferently. As long as he's here, our chances of winning will be higher. Hearing this, everyone immediately understood. They kept an eye on the boy along the way, not giving him any chance to escape. Soon, Lu Da was mentally prepared to be captured by these people again. Seeing these people chasing after him, he sneered. You guys are really amazing. I have to say, I admire you guys. Bai Yunj, who was behind him, just casually glanced around and didn't plan to go forward. Come back with us now. Chen Hu pointed at him with the wooden gun. Hearing this, Lu Da suddenly laughed and grabbed the boy's neck with one hand. Is that so? Don't act rashly. I don't want to hurt the innocent. Where did this child come from? Someone subconsciously frowned and asked. At this moment, there was actually such an episode. How about this? I can apologize with my death, but you have to let my brother go. Allow them to take my body away. How about that? Lu Da's eyes were like an eagle's as he stared at them and asked. 2020-inch, this is not a worthwhile transaction. Furthermore, there is no good transaction that would be carried out with threats. Chen Hu laughed. Everyone was thinking about how to save the boy. The safety of the innocent hostage was the most important. What does Miss Pei think? Chen Hu asked. Only then did Bai Yunj look up and meet Ruda's eyes. Soon, Lu Da reacted. This was the person Meng Liang was talking about. His heart sank. Sure enough, Bai Yunj spoke up in the next moment. She chuckled. Isn't the corpse a little troublesome? What about the ashes? There's an idiom in our country that goes like this. Burn the bones and scatter the ashes. Immediately, the faces of Lu Da and the others changed. This was especially true for Lu Da, who felt an inexplicable sense of panic. Did this person discover something so he did it on purpose? The corpse had been burned to ashes, so how could the chip still be there? Arrogant. Don't you dare. Lu Da's team members said angrily. Yes. Let us go. Otherwise, this little boy won't be able to live. Lu Da thought for a moment and suddenly laughed. I don't want to involve innocent people. I wonder if that beautiful lady is willing to be a hostage. White Bear's face sank. Impossible. The others thought the same. Especially in the monitoring room, the people who were watching this scene were on tenterhooks. No matter what. With Bai Yunj's status, she could not become a hostage. Sergeant Gao could not help but give the order. Everyone, don't forget what the most important mission this time is. Protect Bai Yunj. This was their first mission. No. Chapter 691. But is it possible for all of you to leave safely? Luda smiled and said, I believe that this beautiful lady was involved in the plan just now. Of course, I won't take revenge on you. I just want to use you in exchange for a chance to leave alive. Bei Yunj chuckled nonchalantly and walked between the two parties. All right, let the child go first. As soon as Bei Yunj finished speaking, White Bear shouted nervously, Miss Peiyu. Bei Yunj only glanced at him and walked slowly towards him. Just as their eyes lit up, they saw Bei Yunj playing with a familiar object in her hand. It was a grenade. This was a warning to them to let the child go. Lu Da's expression changed, and he could only say one sentence through gritted teeth. Let the child go. Now, he really believed that this person was the one who had been messing with his plan from the beginning to the end. In the beginning, these people didn't have any advantage. But later on, they were beaten to the point where they couldn't even fight back. Seeing the boy walk in front of her, he called out guiltily, Sis. Sis. He was afraid that this sister of his would lose her life in order to save him. Bei Yunj sized him up and patted his head before walking forward. She smiled casually and said, You can swim quite well. The boy looked down at his wet pants. He lived in a village 3,000 to 4,000 meters away. He swam nearly 2,000 meters near the river before reaching here. Not long after the hostage exchange was successful, someone pointed a wooden gun at the back of Bei Yunj's head from behind. The team member took Bei Yunj hostage and glanced at the others provocatively. However, Bei Yunj did not look nervous from the beginning to the end. No one noticed that Bei Yunj glanced at her wristwatch. Let's retreat. With Bei Yunj in their hands, the others didn't dare to use force. White Bear asked anxiously, What should we do? What should we do? Miss Pei is in their hands. In the monitoring room. Old Zhong calmed down. Gu'er was willing to be a hostage. Don't be anxious. Old Master Lung said quickly. Zhong Xinglin's face was ashen, and his heart was in a mess. These bastards. Don't worry, Gu'er is very important to them. Nothing's going to happen. Old Master Lung quickly comforted him. Cui Hingchuan asked casually, Elder Lung, have the other teams been transferred over? They should be here soon. Old Master Lung took the opportunity to reassure Zhong Shenglin. I don't care. If these people dared to touch even a strand of my Gu'er's hair, they must be killed the moment they are caught. All right, I'll listen to you. Old Master Lung quickly agreed. On the way. You're not afraid? Ruda always felt that this girl was too calm. It's not the first time. Bei Yunj was calm and collected. Luda couldn't help but take another look at Bei Yunj, and a dark light flashed in his eyes. Miss, I know your ability. It would be a pity if you died. Bei Yunj glanced at him. You want me to betray you? There's indeed no burden to communicate with smart people. Luda's eyes lit up. With your ability, you're highly valued anywhere. Miss, you should know that if those people don't let me go in the end, I can only fight to the death. But I believe that you might be able to help us escape successfully. As long as we leave this place, I can bring you thousands of times more benefits. Chapter 692. Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched as he glanced at Luda. He smiled and said, It should be easy to choose between life and death, right? It's a good choice. Bei Yunj suddenly stopped in his tracks. The team members following behind him quickly pointed the wooden gun at him. What are you doing? The team member asked fiercely. But at this moment. However, Luda's entire body froze. He felt something cold pressing against his back. Without a doubt. It was the wooden gun. Do you want to go back with me now? Or do you want to try and see who will be the first to die? Luda listened to the girl's half-hearted voice and could not feel her fear at all. A person who did not know fear was simply a lunatic. Do you think I'm afraid of losing my life? Luda took a deep breath and sneered again. He was forcing himself not to be afraid of the wooden gun pointing at his heart. Luda, it's been an hour. Bei Yunj's lips curled up. If I die, you guys will only turn into ashes. As soon as he finished speaking. At first, Luda did not understand what Bei Yunj meant. But the next moment he heard a sound above his head. When he looked up, he saw 7 or 8 helicopters hovering. Rescue teams surrounded them from both sides. Seeing this scene, Luda could not help but grit his teeth. In the end he said unwillingly, "Ricky, put it down." Ricky's face was livid. He scanned his surroundings and knew that this mission had failed. But he did not expect that the hour Bai Yunj was talking about was these. Not long after, the people from the blue and red teams saw the people coming down from the helicopters. They also saw their team emblem. Wait a minute. Doesn't that team emblem look a little familiar? The people from the blue team whispered. Not long after, another team came down from the other side. Within a few minutes, everyone reacted. It's Falcon and Wolf. No way Falcon and Subdue Wolf have both appeared? Everyone could not suppress their excitement. These two teams were the legends of the district. Who didn't want to join these two teams? Just as everyone was feeling reserved and did not dare to go to the two big shots of the two teams, the captains of Falcon and Wolf walked up to Bai Yunj. "Miss Pei, are you all right? I heard from Elder Zhong that something happened to you, so I rushed over." The captain of Team Wolf, Tan Nan, looked gentle. His skin was fair and clean, which did not match his profession. However, his eyes were very dark, as if they could see through people's hearts. "I'm fine." Bai Yunj handed the things in her hands to White Bear. At this moment, the captain of the Falcon squad couldn't help but ask, "Miss Pei, how old are you? You've been running around all day and even come to a place like this?" The captain of the Falcons, Lu Zhongzhou, was the younger brother of Captain Lu, who had helped Bai Yunj collect evidence against Fu Yanbai. He had a good relationship with Bai Yunj. "Bai Yunj, I didn't want to come." "Then what are you doing here? Experience life?" Lu Zhongzhou put on a fake smile. If Bai Yunj got hurt today, his brother would not forgive him. Not far away, when everyone saw that the famous captains of the two districts actually knew Bai Yunj, they could not help but be shocked. What kind of social circle was Miss Pei in? Everyone she knew was a big shot? At this moment, Xiang Hongtao was standing not far away, his expression a little ugly. He looked at the two idols he had set as his goal, and they did not hide their concern and sympathy for Bai Yunj. He clenched his fists. Chapter 693. After Tan Nan got someone to take these foreign people away, the two of them asked Bai Yunj about the specific incident along the way. The main reason was that they were afraid that there might be a hidden reason for bringing Meng Liang out of prison this time. It was because of Bai Yunj. To the people above, Bai Yunj was much more important than Meng Liang. The two of them were not on the same level at all. After that, everyone was envious when they saw Bai Yunj being brought to Falcon and Wolf's helicopter. What kind of identity does Miss Pei have? Why do even God Tan and God Lu seem to have a good relationship with Miss Pei? Someone could not help but ask Shen Hu. They don't just seem to have a good relationship. Look at God Tan. I've seen him on a mission once before. He's so cold. When he spoke to Miss Pei just now, wasn't his tone too doting? As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Shui, who was beside him, could not help but look at his companion. "Old Gu, are you interested in God Tan?" F*CKU. Heroes should appreciate each other. Don't you know that? I'm still envious of White Bear. When he was on a mission just now, no one wanted to protect Miss Pei. Now Miss Pei brought him to God Tan and God Lu. When everyone said this, they believed a truth. Fools have fool's luck. In the end, White Bear, that silly boy, benefited. On the helicopter. "So Elder Zhong threw you here?" Lu Zhongzhou was shocked. When he and Tan Nan were on shift at the Computing Institute, they had also seen how Zhong Shenglin doted on Bai Yunj. Even Professor C from the computing department of Yin University next door would take the blame every time he fought with Bai Yunj. However, they did not expect that the person who sent Bai Yunj to the district would be Elder Zhong. Bai Yunj bit the biscuit that Tan Nan had just handed her. Her slow eating manner was especially pleasing to the eye. The men from Falcon and Wolf could not help but look at Bai Yunj lovingly. Miss Pei was really too beautiful. 22nd Literature Network. Even the way she ate the biscuits was adorable. This also led to the need to fight for a spot to protect Miss Pei every time they came to the Computing Institute. White Bear felt the loving gazes directed at Bai Yunj. Was Miss Pei the team favorite of Falcon and Wolf? Why did it seem like all these almighties liked Miss Pei? Miss Pei, why don't you come to our camp? Our security is stronger, and we can protect you better. At this moment, Lu Zhongzhou still did not know what Bei Yunj had done just now. No need. Elder Zhong will let me go back in a few days. There was an inexplicable sense of confidence in Bei Yunj's tone. All right. Lu Zhongzhou nodded. Subsequently, when they returned to the district, everyone's eyes widened when they saw Bei Yunj and White Bear alight from Team Wolf's helicopter. Why would Team Wolf and Team Falcon appear here? These two teams usually don't go out on missions at the same time. Not far away, Old Master Lung also had mixed feelings. As one of the higher-ups in the district, he could not get these two brats to move. It was not as useful as Elder Zhong's special situation at the Computing Institute. Why is Old Master Lung here? Tan Nan and Lu Zhongzhou greeted Old Master Lung. Chapter 694. I'm fine. Bei Yunj said. Turn around. Zhong Shenglin gestured for Bei Yunj to turn around and let him see if she was injured. Bei Yunj turned around obediently. Even Bei Yunj's sleeves were a little torn. Zhong Shenglin heaved a sigh of relief. It's good that you're fine. Zhong Shenglin changed the topic and pulled Bei Yunj back. He was so angry that his expression changed. Lung, look at what my Guer has suffered. These words made Old Master Lung's heart skip a beat. But in the next moment, Zhong Shenglin said angrily, her sleeves are torn. What if she hurts her hands? Do you know how important these hands are? Old Master Lung was speechless. Very good. This old man had gone crazy. At this moment, when the others saw Elder Zhong in front of them, they were even more in disbelief. Miss Pei and Old Master Zhong knew each other too. What kind of identity did she have to know so many immortals? Elder Zhong, when can I go back? Bei Yunj thought that after today's incident, it was time for her to end her days in the district. She came and left on the same day. This was indeed the best plan. Just as Zhong Shenglin was feeling vexed and sorry for Bei Yunj, and was about to agree to Bei Yunj's request, a low voice sounded. Miss Pei, it's my honor to meet you for the first time today. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and turned around. She glanced at a handsome and gentle man in a white coat. You are? My name is Cui Hingchuan. I'm a doctor. The man curled his thin lips. Although Cui Hingchuan did not point it out, Bei Yunj roughly knew what was going on. Bei Yunj turned around. Elder Zhong, when can we? Miss Pei, do you have time to treat you to a meal today? Cui Hingchuan's voice sounded, interrupting her. Bei Yunj's eyes twitched, and she said slowly, I don't like to eat with people I'm not familiar with. These words were very straightforward, but Cui Hingchuan was not embarrassed. Just now he did it because Bei Yunj would at least give him some face in public. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj was even more unpredictable than he had imagined. Oh, Dr. Cui just wants to chat with you. Zhong Shenglin was concerned about Bei Yunj's illness, and hoped that Cui Hingchuan could treat Bei Yunj. Thus, they played matchmaker to their heart's content. However, what was unexpected was that the two captains beside her felt that a dangerous person was approaching Bei Yunj. Miss Pei is just like that. She's more straightforward with people she's not close to. Lu Zhongzhou chuckled and said, How about this, God Tan and I will eat with you. Tan Nan nodded. White Bear quickly added, I want to go too. Bei Yunj. In the office. Dai Dan, I've already applied for a transfer for you. You're more suitable for a civilian job. Old Master Lung said. Hearing this, Dai Dan clenched her fists instinctively and bit her lip. After a while. Why? Is it because I didn't perform well enough, or did someone say something about me? With that said, Bei Yunj and Chen Hu appeared in Dai Dan's mind. No one said anything about you. I watched the entire mission. Old Master Lung said calmly. After Yunj gave you the topographic map, did you really successfully locate the enemy again? These words made Dai Dan's face pale. Dai Dan, I don't want anyone to joke about their companions' lives at the front line. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.